These influencers are sus. Something smells off. And it ain't waffle fries.
We are better than you niggas, period.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
I missed him a lot today.
You ready for me yet?
And we're ready to go.
My Twitch Trinity, y'all need to check out Yella. Y'all need to check out Kawhi Bree. Y'all need to check out Arshawn.
Absolutely. Shout out to those three.
They lie, they procrastinate, they avoid, they're grandiose, they're narcissistic, they're undisciplined, they're nihilistic, they're aimless, all of those things, right? Victim mentality. They take the quick way out. They pursue impulsive pleasures. They sacrifice meaning for expediency. They don't take care of their basic responsibilities. They fight stupidly with their parents. They don't negotiate properly with their spouse. They're bitter at work because they haven't said what they have to say. They haven't thought through what they're doing tomorrow. They drink too much. They smoke too much. They take too many drugs. They don't regulate their so there's like, and everyone knows, man. Everyone knows. And that you have a section for comments where it's real human beings that are verified, and you have another section underneath that's for anonymous troll demons. And if you want to go visit their hell and see what their resentful minds are spewing into the public landscape, then you can. Otherwise, you stick to the real human beings.
For the 20th century, every decade pretty much had an ism.
I need to brush up on my isms.
Hey, yo, what's ism? Get the money. Yeah, it's ism, get the money.
Ideologies are always really kind of difficult because they're ideas, they're different ways of looking at the world, and they all end in ism, and isms are intimidating. So today, let me see if I can help you understand the isms.
One time, I thought I told you, nigga. Niggas know a nigga about his isms.
Isms have done so much damage, but people still believe in them.
Talking shit, I might just have to get him. Bitch, I got that flow, I got that wisdom. Bitch, say no to me, I'm Mr. Ism.
I hereby turn over to Ism Incorporated everything I have, including my freedom and the freedom of my children and my children's children, in return for which said ism promises to take care of me forever.
Isms nigga. Thought I told you I'ma have to get 'em, nigga. Oh, bitch, I got that flow, I got that wisdom. Bitch, say no to me, I'm Mr. Ism.
Isms, in my opinion, are not good. A person should not believe in an ism. He should believe in himself.
And not be clouded with the great isms.
Bitch! What the fuck? Now you about to fucking lose it. Woo. Niggas know a nigga about his isms. Talking shit, I might just have to get him. Bitch, I got that flow, I got that wisdom. Bitch, say no to me, I'm Mr. Ism. Isms nigga. Thought I told you I'ma have to get 'em, nigga. Oh, bitch, I got that flow, I got that wisdom. Bitch, say no to me, I'm Mr. Ism.
I was like, yo, get your ass off my channel.
All right, I unmuted. What is up, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Critically Drinking. And today, with Kawhi Bree, it is the Ism Show. First off, man, I see y'all already start. Yes, they are better off. And a comment that did not come through, but I see it on the YouTube side. Everybody is better under white supremacy compared to the freed black man, even a black man in jail. Roberto's perspective is wild today, coming off the gates with some heat, man. Woo! Everybody is better. Oh, that was Sim Simma. Oh, that wasn't even Roberto. That was Sim Simma. Sim Simma? Oh, snap. That was Sim. I thought that was Roberto. My bad, Roberto. I attributed that to you. What? We coming in hot.
Okay. Hey, y'all.
How are you today, Bree? This is already
Good.
interesting.
Yes.
I was
Let
not
the hate
expecting this.
consume you.
Oh
I
my
love it.
gosh. Well,
Good.
hold up, man. Let me get my music on real
So
quick.
that mean that many people won't be upset then from this conversation.
I was not expecting.
They already, huh? You hurt? I know your answer wasn't finna be no. Hold on, we won't. I think you muted. Or my earphones.
I'm muted?
Work.
It's your
Yeah, you
earphone.
was. Okay, nah, you was muted. Go ahead.
I wasn't muted. I didn't touch anything. I wasn't muted. You just got bad hair, whatever. Hearing aids.
Yes,
You getting old.
I don't know.
What up, Stem? Stemma?
I am old.
Hey, you a little old.
Hey, everybody in the chat.
Let me see if this works. I'm just trying something out.
You skipped Mezzo. She said yeah too. And then she tried to run off.
I put that up on the screen.
Okay.
She said, yeah, hi and bye. Bam.
She said supported my ex.
Cool. Yeah, even though I'm better off without. Oh, you better off. Okay. All right. I see. We starting off.
You are, sis, because he don't know the difference between stuffing and dressing. So you better off without him. Get that toxicity out of your life. You don't need that. He gonna hold you back.
The shade of it all, yo. I can't see that either. Let me just bump this off. I don't like that. All right, y'all. Give me a second to. Wow, you really gonna buy into that, Mezzo? Mezzo, don't do me like that. We had a long, productive marriage of about 6 days. Like, I really don't think you can throw all of that away. Like, for stuffing and dressing and white supremacy. Like, I really think we need to like reconcile, at least to be amicable. You
an expert on marriage now. 6 days? Tell me. Who filed for divorce? Her? Because women.
It was actually me. It was me.
Oh wow.
It was me, yeah. It was
Stand up for yourself, black man.
It was all of the food. It was all of the food questions. Like all the food problems. We had too many problems around food. She wanted to put all the bread high up on the tier list, and I wanted the bread like
I had your blood sugar up. Tell me.
Exactly. And I'm already a big guy. All that bread would have just took me out. So I felt like she was trying to take me out. And then she didn't like me calling that out publicly. So we had a big old spat. It followed over to her page. It was like, it was a wild week.
Marriage goals.
But real quick, man, let me see. Hold up, man, because I gotta.
Dang, Wally mad too. Y'all worked up.
Oh my god, let me see.
Wally said he ready for the smoke.
Why should black men care? Here's the next real question. So that question is there racism then?
Yeah, quiet as it's killed. Y'all better off too.
Well, we better off with Zaddy. Wow, this is where we start. Okay, I see where we starting. Let me get centered, man. Y'all done threw me all the way off. Like y'all done threw me all the way. Oh, I'm still shocked. Hey, shout out to Two Chopsticks. Shout out to Roberto's Perspective. Shout out to Inya, Simsima, Mezzo, Wally. This person next to me. Kawaii Bree. Everybody that came in early. Appreciate all of y'all. Got the very first one. Was this other Bree. There's too many Brees running through here. A lot of imposters. Now, what is on tap for today? Now, listen, everybody. We wanted to have an ism. What is that called? Naive realism. We were going to do that. But then this Bree had the nerve to go on a panel on Omawale Africa about mating and dating. And during that conversation, a question was brought up. And it was so juicy, so beautiful. I had to ask it. I had to have the conversation because they couldn't dive into it. I actually want to take it seriously. I mean, have fun with it, of course, but I actually want to take the question seriously. Right. But that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about, are black women better off under white supremacy than under the black man?
Up under the black man. So, I see Sam don't have no home trainer either. I'm disappointed.
Uh-oh. Man, so I want to recap that in a minute. I'm going to recap that, but Bree City. Yeah, a lot of Brees. What's the difference between stuffing and dressing? Now, listen, this is how I got schooled. I'm not an expert. Now, Sim, I'm not an expert. But stuffing is the same substance, okay? But stuffing is dressing that is stuffed into the turkey and cooked within the turkey. That's stuffing. So then you take it out of the bird and then serve it. That's stuffing. Dressing is cooked separately. It is not cooked within the bird. And you eat that. It never goes inside of the bird. It's not cooked in the bird. Cooked totally independently, typically baked, so it has that dry, crunchy top. But that's the difference, you know, all that good stuff. So yeah, that's the difference. And stuffing is the word I used. I got chewed out. That's what led to me and Mezzo our divorce, honestly. Me and Mezzo are getting divorced over a lot of different food items, and I couldn't get over a lot of things. I got real hot and spicy over stuffing versus dressing because I call stuffing all of it. But Kansas Dan in the building. Appreciate y'all. I know I'll be on tomorrow, everybody, but make sure you guys are back here on December the 1st. I know me and Kansas Dan, Bree, if you want, definitely be included. Yella, if you're wanting to be included. Mandrill, I know he might pop through later. I would like to include him as well. I'd like to have a conversation about the social media influence. I've pulled together some stats about how people operate within that space. Some of it gender. I didn't want to necessarily go racial, but I think there's a definite disparity about gender activity on social media. And generational. Gender and generational seem to be I would say, the biggest. But I really want to have that conversation. That'll be on December 1st, probably towards the evening, closer to around this time, to 6 p.m.-ish for me. Because I do have one of them airport drop-offs. So was it the swirl question? The swirl question? No, not the swirl question.
Everybody always think I got a white husband. My husband is not white. Okay.
Free, so we can be set free. Wally, I actually agree with you. I actually agree with you. Bow. What's up, Chef Nia? Hey, I'm on it. How you doing today, Chef? All right. So to recap, y'all, I want to definitely tell you what was going down. It's a psychological definition of stuff in the dress, and I do like both. Oh, okay. I don't like it cooked in a bird. That freaks me out a little bit. I don't even know why. Nah. What's good? What's goody? Now, when this past was that Sunday, Bree? This past Sunday, Bree was over on Omawale Africa, and I believe if you go into the description on YouTube, there's actually a link to his page, one of those hyperlinks in the description. You can check out that conversation. It was one of the things. It was on dating. Check that out if you're interested. Like I said, during the conversation, he brought up this tweet or this poll, and I found it. I found the people. If you go to my thumbnail, or again in the description on YouTube, there's a link to #blackwomen. They had a poll that I guess even Cynthia G retweeted. Are black women better off under the system of white supremacy than under a system by black men? So that was brought up. The question was kind of shrugged off, in my opinion. Bree, did you feel like that question was taken seriously, or do you feel like it just wasn't even fielded?
I think you talking about Omawale panel. I think he was just kind of making a point with it, kind of just like, well, if this is how most of the women that, because it's like pro-black space, black nationalist space, so it's like, well, if you're trying to date black women and 93% of black women, of course we know the poll is skewed because of audience and all that stuff, right? Like if this was a divestor audience, like it probably was majorly skewed. But just if we just took it for fact and 93% of black women felt that way, then what are these pro-black men to do? I think that was kind of the point. So in that way, I think it was, yeah.
And as far as the people who like fielded the question, the people on the panel, do you feel like they actually had
addressed it?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I feel like other points got tied into it because I was kind of saying like, what other option is there where we were under black men? I'm just trying to figure out.
Fresh.
Like what are we comparing it to? That was my issue. It was a dumb question because I'm like, what system are we comparing it to?
Yeah, and that's a fair question, a good question. And another good question is Kamara Fresh asks, where are the white women at? They have not subscribed or followed me yet. I just don't have that audience, Fresh. I'm sorry. You're in the wrong place. They don't follow me. Black men have a system? Damn, could have fooled me. That's the point that Bree brought up. Like what system, when have we seen a system that black men are running, at least in the United States? So if we're talking about black Americans, we've never seen it really. So I just don't know. know how we could even add that question, but I wanted to start unpacking that. But now that y'all kind of know where the conversation was, if you want to find it, go on the YouTube. The link. Do I have that? I don't know if I have that tagged up. I'm not even gonna worry about that right now. If you want to ask a question, please put a Q before a question, and if it's for a specific person, put their name. I'll make sure I start in StreamYard, and I'll make sure I get back to it if we're in the middle of a conversation. So please do that for me to help me organize, because if it's not a direct question, I may skip some of the comments if we're in the middle of something. Because sometimes these conversations, the chat will start moving and I might miss some stuff. But if I see the cue, I'll make sure I start and return to it. I remember finding Cynthia G and learned the term dusty. It can be offensive. I plan on finding this live. Okay, cool. It was interesting. Again, like they did not really. Thank you. Let me start that too, so I don't got to keep going up to the banner. That's even better. Appreciate you. Man, say super mods in the building. All right, let me see. Spider-Man. Doesn't she think black women need to be with white guys? Now, I honestly don't know exactly what her views are. The only thing I know for sure, she feels so strongly that black men have gone so far off the rails that if they continue in the path they're going, it should become selective breeding, where black women abort black male fetuses. Like, I do know that when I heard that multiple times out of her mouth, like watching the video, that one I can confirm myself. She did say that, but it wasn't a blanket. That's just the way it should be. That's in response to how black men are showing up, which I want to actually tackle. I want to talk about that today, not the abortion piece, but black men, because that's part of this question. That's part of the unspoken part of this question, is how black men are showing up when in regards to black women. Because this wouldn't even be a question if it weren't for that. So let me see where we are. I want to play a very quick video, Bree, from one of our guys, one of our people. It's like 41 seconds, y'all. 41 seconds. I want to briefly talk about why we even do the ISM show, but these are why we have these type of conversations, because of this right here.
I ask a lot of my clients, how often do you think about what you think about? In cognitive behavioral therapy, we have a skill called metacognition. How often do you think about what you think about? A lot of my clients say, I don't really do that. I usually don't do that. Metacognition and thinking about what you think about is the first step of being accountable to your own behaviors. Why? Because most people do not challenge their own ideas and beliefs. They don't. They just accept them as what is. This is the reason why so many people present opinions as facts.
Why so many people present opinions as facts? Yes, we do not challenge our thoughts. So me and Bree definitely like to challenge our thoughts. We challenge each other's thoughts. We challenge other people's thoughts. We like to make sure that we're on stable mental footing when we come to conversations. A lot of people don't invest that much energy into it. So that's why we have these conversations, to take a concept and actually think about it, where other people might have some kind of bias that will not allow them to even approach it. It's just too offensive or something. Like, I don't have any sacred cows. Nah, it was a solid statement. Rashawn is a 42. I can trust anything else he said. I thought he was in his early 20s. Yeah, I'm actually not even 42. Gotcha. I'm 43. Gotcha. Ha ha. It was worth it. Now, here's another problem before we even get into this. About a week ago, he is 25 for real. About a week ago, I was having a tantrum over there on Twitch. And Bree laughed at me. She had that little popcorn, little Michael Jackson with the popcorn.
You be over there. You be having some moments. It's all right though.
I was doing this right there.
Right.
Bree was doing that, and I was over there having a tantrum. But then I listened to this guy. The guy I just played the clip from, and I want to make sure I warn people about this, because this kind of conversation can trigger a lot of defensiveness. So listen to this real quick.
Right? Because a lot of us respond to things because we are defending the ego of our gender. A lot of us respond to things the way that it is that we do because we are responding to defending the collective ego of our gender. I find it hilarious how it is that I seemingly have conversations with people of different intersections, very nuanced conversations, and the rate of me like offending people is slim. The people who I usually offend the most are cishet men. Why? Because they are used to their bullshit being tolerated, and I ain't one of them.
So I admit, I was defending the ego of my gender for no good reason. But I really felt like, oh, men, oh, y'all can't talk about us, man. I was in my fields. And I ran it for about an hour. If I'm not mistaken, it was a full hour. I ran it for a full hour. In hindsight, I'm rather embarrassed about it.
Oh, you shouldn't be embarrassed.
It's a little embarrassing. I mean, because I'm 43. I'd like to have thought I would have developed past that by this point. But I didn't. I got caught up. Everybody makes mistakes. We all have flaws, but I fell into that one. I don't want anybody to fall into that today. Do not feel that you have to defend blackness, womanness, manness, whiteness. You don't have to defend anything. We're actually just going to examine the question from different angles. Ask your input. We need your feedback too. What do you think? A lot of people just said yes, but we want to find out why. Because thinking about our thoughts, thinking about where our opinions come from is important. That helps us develop. So you don't end up online ranting for an hour about the male gender image. That's real. Whatever, Bree. I don't like that.
God forbid somebody talk about it. I'm not even gonna start. Let's go.
Just in the controversy apology stream. Yes. Sometime as a streamer, we do something or say something that we unfortunately come to regret. Well, everybody in my audience, I want to take this time now to say I'll be stepping away for some time to reflect.
You're gonna go to Fiji to find yourself. Nah, yeah, I ain't never. Nope. I say what I be meaning. So
facts. Just always remember that your opinion is not another person's reality, people. Your opinion is not a universal fact. So that's where we want to start the conversation today. Now, just real quick.
Those are good, adequate warnings before the beginning of the show.
Yeah, so definitely got JP coming through the comment. There it is. I was wondering where that came. Peace to the panel. Check, glad to catch you live. Thank you, JP, for popping through. We are just getting ready to jump into it. I wanted to give a little bit of a backstory for myself to tie this problem in, how this looks for me. The only reason I'm in this space is because like a through line of like Kevin Samuels to the Lapeef channel, then King, Conversation with King, and then so on and so forth. Like there's a through line that I can follow during the pandemic of people I followed that led me to streaming. JP was one of those people. Knowledge and Relationships is another group that I was definitely integral in me being a streamer. So there's a definite followable path of all of that. Conversations with King and the Lapeef group, they both had a large black audience. Black male, black female, black woman, black man, whatever words you're comfortable with. I don't want to get too sensitive about the words. Black men and black women were the major supporters. But in both cases, black men and black women were there to be more exploited. Even though their participation was being monetized, they were not being celebrated in those spaces. Conversations with King explicitly talked about other nationalities' women over top of black women. The Lapeef group, Anton and Lapeef Jr. explicitly said that their channel was not a black channel. It wasn't for black people. Although 90-something% of their support were black men and black women. And I would say their most ardent supporters were probably black women in both channels' cases. That's why I bring that to the conversation, because does it really matter who's exploiting you? Because when people saw Just Pearly come into the case, and she's talking about, I talk to more city girls than any of you black people. She didn't say black people, but that was the thing. Just Pearly talks to so many wretched black women, and they were mad because she's exploiting them. Does it really matter what color the face is that's doing the exploitation? So that's where I actually approach this question. Because we're talking about under a system If black women are under a system, not participating in a system, not helping build the system, they're going to be under a system. They're going to be the labor, the bodies, the capital. So either way, when I approach this question, that's how I approach it. That's how I see it. That's the lens I'm coming from. So before we even start this conversation, I wanted to give where I'm coming from when I see that question. I see it as which person is going to exploit me, and how can I get the most benefit back if I'm going to be the exploited? Because I don't see in that question of a path where women are empowered. Which system am I under? So Bree, what is your opening take stance on that question and your opinion?
On the question of, are the black women better off?
Yep.
It's a weird question. Like, if we're saying white supremacy is capitalism, then yeah. Like, are we talking about America in its current iteration? Is that what white supremacy is? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is, I guess we have to establish what we mean when we say white supremacy. Because I just feel like if you're talking about capitalism, American capitalism, then yeah. And of course, American capitalism is built from white supremacy. So if we're talking about that, then yes.
Okay. Well, somebody put in the chat, and I can't remember. They didn't put a Q in front of it, but make sure you put a Q in front of it. Make sure I see it and start. But somebody put, man, what was it?
On her?
First, about racism. It was about racism. So let's start with the white supremacy.
Right.
It's Black Friday white supremacy. It adds to white.
Yes, it all is. If it's happening in America and it's part of capitalism, I guess.
So let's identify it. So capitalism, the way I understand it, would be attributed to white supremacy. Right. So let's anchor it in today's time. So 2022, the power structure in the United States of America, that would be considered white supremacy, remnants of colonialism and imperialism.
Right.
So that would be white supremacy. Capitalism is just one of the main tools, the economic driver that drives everything else.
Right.
There's the political wing, there's the economic wing, there's all kinds of things. So I don't want to say white supremacy is capitalism, but capitalism.
But that's what I think when we're having this conversation, we are talking, because in America, capitalism can't exist outside of America, but our specific brand of capitalism over here is definitely built off the back of white supremacy. So I'm okay with that statement, and my answer is yes.
Okay, things only speak to that disagree to her statement, which is random from what I heard. Okay. Now, I wish Anifa was around. Yeah. I like that too.
And it's still weird for me because it's like usually when you hear that, you're like, compared to what? Like, it feels like it's still missing half of the statement. You know, like it feels like there should be a comparative statement of like better off under white supremacy rather than, or I guess it's saying better off than black men. I mean, I can still agree with that. Yes. Because black men do suffer more, I think, from the power structure.
Supremacy, yeah. What's up? Chris Classic in the building. Man, oh my God. Let me make sure. Let me see if I have it. Let me see if I got the bot right.
Oh my goodness.
Right. Appreciate you for coming through, Chris Classic. I know I got to set up some other people too. I know I got to get JP in there. So I got to make sure I do this. It's hard to go back and do all that updates. But man, make sure y'all go check out Chris Classic. If you are into wrestling at any degree at all, did I just delete my whole notes? Okay. All right. If you're into wrestling, make sure you go out and check out Chris Classic. He's doing a lot of small vlogs talking about individual themes and items within the wrestling world. I know with Nova, did you see the thumbnail? You saw the overlay. Oh, the overlay's gone. You didn't see that. Let me bring it back. I don't know what I did. Man, there you go, Nova. There you go. Just for you, Playboy. White supremacy versus black men. That's the question as I understood it. Because like Bree said, I do believe it was a weird question, the way it was worded.
Right.
It was talking about whose system do you want to be under? But we also know black men in America have not had a system for black women to be under. It's already.
If we talking about having a choice, I don't want to be on the knee. I mean, I guess I don't. I'm scared of what black man supremacy will look like. I mean, if you're gonna say it's the equal but opposite equivalent, instead of it being white men at the top 1%, it's black men, then I guess that's fine. That's nice. Yeah, we would just be like, I guess, in the position that the white people are in. I mean, if you really gonna do an equal exact opposite, then yeah, of course, as a black woman, it would benefit me more than likely. So yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
You wouldn't have a problem with being the top dog, huh?
Yeah, if we was, I mean, why would I? I mean, if I could find a way to be okay in white supremacy, then surely I would thrive in black supremacy. I mean, it's not a lose for me. Do I ever think that'll happen? No, because y'all don't know how to act.
Okay, we got to talk about that too. We don't know how to act, but my first thing is, why do we want to be supreme? Like, if we're complaining about the way other people are acting in supremacy, why would we want to replace one with the other?
Yeah,
like,
I don't want to. That was my point. Like, I really kind of don't want to. Like, if we were gonna come up with a better system, let's just find a better one. Period. Like, let's not do equal but opposite, because there's still gonna be equal suffering. It will just be white people.
Yeah.
I'm not really
have a black face on it. I don't want that. I don't desire that. I don't want to be in the same threatened position that white people, I can tell that they feel. Like the ones that actually have money and power, there's a certain threatened feeling. Like always I have to maintain and I've got to hold on to it. I don't want to feel like that. Like this, I don't ever, I'm not that I would. If black supremacy took over, I would probably still be down. I would be the poor black trash. Like that would be.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be, like, it's not a safe bet, because if you're not one of the wealthy or elite families, I mean, you could still just be black trash, right? Like white trash. We'll just be black trash. So you're not guaranteed to be rich.
Not
it's
even
still only
guaranteed to be
1%,
rich.
you know? So, yeah, I don't know.
Crazy. Set them free. Now, Wiley, I'm gonna come back to that, because I do believe there's a lady called Wireless Woman, and she's on a man boycott. And I really think there is a thing, not just for this conversation. I really think there's a thing to we are too emotional. This whole gender war, we're too emotional damage. We're too damaged right now to partake in relationships, and we need to like separate. We need to go to our rooms like children. Go to your rooms, cool down, and then come back and have a calm conversation. But I'm gonna come back to your comment. I know the second time you said it, said give them free. Bree brought up something in the Discord that I thought was interesting. Yellow Pill in the building. What's up, Brody? Let me see if I got you set up. Gotta remember these alerts. Yeah, make sure you check out Yellow Pill Coffee on Twitch. The person, his platform. The actual coffee is not on Twitch. The actual coffee is on Spotify. Let me see if I spelled it right. Do it.
I'm like, what's the
alternative? Ignore that one. Ignore that one, y'all. I don't know what I did. Is it YPC? I know this is ghetto, y'all. I know this is ghetto.
I'm like, you is what is this? Oh, okay.
YPC.
He can't even remember. He got so many codes. He can't even
got so many. I forgot. Andrew Coffee Search, y'all. Purchase the merch. Yellow Pill Coffee Co. If you want to buy some coffee. He keeps saying Spotify, which I love. Like he has a. Like he's got a mixtape out there.
Spotify instead of Shopify.
I love it. You'll go to your room willingly.
My question is, why are you so mad, Wiley? Who hurt you?
Ooh, who hurt you? She hit you with the who hurt you. Who hurt you? Wiley, you gonna take that? Wiley, you gonna take that? Who hurt you? But the question Bree brought up in the Discord earlier was, I'm not a rapper. Was about competition. Do you remember your question as you posed it, or would you like to pose it in a different way? I can't remember exactly, but I know competition.
Because I was like, like it would be so nice if in life we had like a competitive system. Because I play Overwatch and I'm like a sweaty gamer, so I'm like trying to get to diamond right now. So like you get your rank, and it's just telling you how well you perform compared to the pool of players. And I was like, dude, it would be nice if we had that in life. I know Yella said our bank accounts is it. I do believe there are markers for like how well you're doing within a system. But I know how y'all don't like this. So we not gonna get, I'm not gonna get too much on that. But I do agree with Yella to some degree. And not your bank account per se, but there's definitely some markers of how well you're navigating the system you are in. Okay, not the one you want to be in. So yeah, I think that does exist, but that would be pretty cool.
Now, I tried to keep the link, Simsima. I tried to keep the link the same so that I wouldn't have to keep changing it every week. And please make sure that works. But that should be the link right there. But Jester Quinn, hello, Jester Quinn. Thank you for popping through. Hello, hello, hello. Mrs. Matthews, I believe it's the first time I've seen you. Welcome in. Hi, in answer to the title's question, not that oppression should be a thing to compare via gender, but no, and neither. The Runaway Slave Channel reports on so many Black women dying by pale hands, so no. And that was actually my point earlier. The question, in my view, the problem with the question is that it still supposes that Black women are under a system. Black women are not a part of, Black women are not building, Black women are being under someone else's system. And I believe that both white men and Black men do not, at this current time, value Black women enough where they're safe being under somebody else's system. So that's my problem with the question. So I don't think being under anybody else's system would work. Even the feminists, if it was a feminist system, I don't think Black women have found a safe space within feminism. I don't think anything other than Black women's hands could actually come, hold them.
But we do have, to some degrees, I mean, research-wise, we are found to be able to maintain better outcomes under the current system than Black men.
Well,
like, I was reading an article that was saying, like, even if you took like a person who come from upper middle class or money, Black boys who are born into those families are still highly likely to end up in poverty.
Right.
Versus a Black woman compared to her female counterparts of other races are more likely to maintain that. But Black men and boys still fall below their counterparts, even if they come from money and like the perfect background with 2-parent homes. So like, I mean, just saying that, like, you're like, okay, well, Black women obviously can still, under white supremacy, they are better off as far as outcomes, like to some degree, than Black men in the same system. So, I mean, yeah. So if I look at the statement as it's saying, better than Black men, like who's able to thrive, who's able to find their footing better in this current system, Black men or Black women than Black women. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the question from the other day, Yella. Give me a second while I pull up the Discord. But yes, it is a question from the other day. We are trying to like come at it from a different angle because we really. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Inya. Super.
Yeah, I'm also not a divester because I mean it was from the divestors, like saying like I think from the divestor angle is like, well, Black women, who would you rather be under? Like white supremacy or Black men, Black supremacy. I think that's the divestor angle. But if you take it for that, the question you have up there, it's yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, because like that goes back to the competitive question, like with the competitive rank, because it's a system that was built by white people, the system will be advantageous to white people.
Right.
Like if I built a system, because it's my system, I'm going to know it better and function better within it than anybody else. So if I want to align myself with successfulness, then I would want to align myself with whoever built the current system, whoever built the game, whoever built the whatever it is. They're going to have to go. Exactly. And it's very unlikely that you can learn it to the degree that you're going to overtake somebody at their own game. Right. So if they created it and it's made in their image and they hold all the cards and the power, to the degree that it's even displacing and harming their own people. Like, again, we talked about like the poor Black. If the systems were reversed, I'd be a poor Black person, poor Black trash. Well, if there's such thing as poor white trash, that means their system still negates a lot of their population.
Right.
So it's not purely racial. The system has some sort of other function that's not based on skin color, which like you talk about the competence. Is there should be some sort of competition to determine who could advance, which I believe there is, and Black people can learn to advance in it, even if there are caps. There's a comfortable level that we could get to.
Yeah, you can climb within the working class. Like, are you ever going to become like, how many black people are probably gonna own means of production and become one of the elites of society? Very slim to none. But you can climb within the working class. Like if you look at working class versus the, you know, the other class who owns the production. Like you can climb within the working class. It is very unlikely you're gonna move out of working class in your lifetime.
Right. And I think that's another problem. I think we keep trying to overturn centuries of work in one life.
Yeah.
I don't think we have any long view. And I think that's another question I wanted to ask you today. I don't think I wrote it down the exact same way, but why do you think black men have such a hard time with sustainability? Like, I mean, forget the unity piece. Like those that do, like, cause we've been listening in on a lot of Afrocentric panels lately. At least I have.
Yeah, you kind of drug us all along with you too. Thanks for that.
I've been hate watching. Because it's like it's annoying me because my thing was, although I wasn't in the community, I do my little micro work. I do my little person to person I do for these people here. But it hasn't been color based, it's based upon need based. Because of that, I look to people that are in the community doing community building as the people who are actually going to do any type of fixing. Like they're actually in the community. We're trying to build a structure. We're trying to have supports. To me, that's the salvation. That's the saving grace is people in the community. So I hear these people talk about all their community work. And then when it comes to sustainability, it seems to fall apart because they can't sustain relationships. They can't sustain conversations on panels. How can we ever transmit data through generations?
So you're saying sustainability, but maybe productivity? I think it's
even
a
if it's not productivity. Because see, I would say if we had something sustainable on a small level, like if we just had like a community center.
Right.
And you have a community center, but it's owned and run by black people.
Right.
Well, then what happens when the person who's running it dies? It typically goes away.
Right.
So that's what I mean. I'm talking about legacy building. Even if it's on a small level, multiple small level legacy things could coalesce, which is how communities and things form. We need long view thinking.
I mean,
We're not going to create an institution in our lifetime. We're not going to just take over the entertainment industry or something like that. It's going to be small things.
So does it start with the family then? The family structure?
It definitely does. It's Greco-Roman culture and also a degree of utilitarianism. I'm deeply utilitarianist. I'm glad I subscribed at work now, but there's also a class dynamic in which the race factor affects different groups. Absolutely.
Right. The intersectionality of it. Class
absolutely.
Right.
Appreciate the sub also. Appreciate the sub. I love utilitarianism. If it's not productive and useful, I don't believe it. So let me give my quick philosophy on like why me and Bree like doing this ism show. What I've seen though, a lot of the breakdowns in relationships center around communication. So if we can't even learn to communicate, we can't learn to relate. And if we can't relate, we can't construct. We can't do business. We can't build homes. We can't build community. So everything starts with the breakdown in communication because the communication, which is all disrespectful, dishonoring, starting there. And maybe going back to the rap music, that perpetual degradation from men to women and women to men, that goes into our behavior. There's no way for us to separate those two. We're programming each other to dislike each other. We dislike and distrust each other, black men and black women. How can you build with people you don't like and you don't trust? So we can't do the big things if we can't do the small things. So I'm starting with conversation, which is something I know I can do. I have a conversation every week with a black woman here. We never break it. We've had disagreements. We have arguments. We can communicate. We can work through stuff. And if that's an example, I think we all need to be able to get to that point first. Because if we can converse and conversate, I know that's not the right word, converse, then we can relate. We can build relationships. And with those relationships, we can translate that into something more meaningful and lasting beyond those two people. So that's my ethic with that utilitarianism. That's the utility of this show for me. You start hands at home.
Why are black men not? I don't. What's wrong with y'all, Rashawn?
Oh, stop it! See,
you asked me. I don't know what's wrong with y'all.
I think black men and black women are all broken.
Okay, I can speak to the black woman part, but I don't know what's wrong with y'all.
See, that's a cop out. Now that's a deflection, Brie. Like
It's
that's
not.
like
I mean, I could start rambling off stuff. You want me to just ramble off random stuff and see what sticks?
Nah, it's not about that. I know you have an opinion about why you think black men are messed up.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's all I was asking you to share, but you don't have to.
No, it's not that. I'm just trying to make sure it's pertinent to the topic, and I don't just start just word vomiting everything that we've ever talked about. Like y'all got ego problems. Y'all don't like to hear, some of the harsh realities. I think. I don't know. Y'all just have very fragile egos. I think that's the central statement to most of it. I think even if I started rambling off little things, it would go back to ego being too fragile to face the person in the mirror and face your reality that you're not showing up the way you need to for yourself. Therefore, it kind of goes out to everything else. And yeah, I think the hopelessness, the powerlessness, all of that stuff that y'all seem to feel leaves y'all very paralyzed. And yeah, that's what I've learned. See, I'm trying to use my words. From what I hear y'all say, it's just a lot of like powerlessness and helplessness. Like it's just a lot of like it's too big of a battle. It's too steep. I'll just stay here in the valley because who's to even say I'll make it? Like it's kind of like that energy. And but there's that, and then like, so if anybody comments on it and it attacks that ego, it's like a very fragile state of being because it's so like, so the ego is fragile because the state of being is fragile. It's a terrible place to be. So that's kind of.
I'm glad you said that because I 100% agree with you, but I also believe that comes from the disenfranchised, displaced, disaffectedness. So you do end up hopeless because you don't see a path out. The problem does seem too big for you. So if you're people that have been subjugated, like that word comes up. I mean, one of the disagreements I had with the conversation when I hear about warfare, but I also hear subjugation. Like if you're subjugated, I'm not sure warfare is the correct word. Like at that time, if you're subjugated, you either submit or you subvert. So we need to adopt more subversive tactics, subversive mentalities if there's a thing where black people are under subjugation. If we accept that as a premise.
Right.
Then you don't have to be hopeless. You could be bound, you could be whatever you want to call it. You could be oppressed, but you're actively working to subvert your conditions, to subvert your oppressor. If you're at war, to me, that's a whole different thing to me. Right. So with the subversion, I think men, women, whoever, there would be a plan of action, which going back to Kate, I'm gonna say K20 Ween. I don't know how to pronounce that. Forgive me. There's a level of utility. There's a plan of action that can give you hope because your goals and measurements, like you talked about that measurement system,
right?
There would be a different metric. So we wouldn't be comparing our progress to white supremacy. We would be comparing our progress to our own internal goals. Right. And then we wouldn't have the same levels of like feeling less than, feeling dehumanized. You don't lose your ego because sometimes winning smaller battles that don't look like wins because it's subversion, like just acts of sabotage or something like that, which may take one L for you, but you have a deeper goal. I think our minds could be reoriented. Just a shift of perspective. Because if you're saying you're at war, but you're subjugated, you're going to be defeated. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
the whole being at war thing. I get it, but I don't get it. That was deep. I know, but I'm just saying. Like I get it, but I don't get it. I get it, but I can't relate. I don't know how that must feel.
But imagine, like, again, being like mentally though, like psychologically.
Right.
If my narrative is I'm at war, but then I see myself in this position, it would never inspire. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could never find inspiration in that position. What's up, man? Drill. if you are available December 1st, man, please let me know. I'm going to reach out to you. I have a hard time calling people. It's a Thursday, December 1st. Let me know if you're available.
Hey, Hanifa, hey, Mandrill. I didn't get to like verbalize hey to them when they came in. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, but go ahead. No.
I just feel like our current situation. If we don't know how to talk, we were just speaking about that, Hanifa. We don't know how to talk to each other, and that's why my utility for this platform is we need to learn how to talk to each other with respect. Now, since you're here, I'll say like not to defend yourself, but since you're here to speak up for yourself, there was a guy on there on the live that we spoke of. Anybody who's late or new coming to the stream, there was a question posed. If you're in the description on YouTube, there's Omawali Africa. And there's a link for hashtag blackwomen in the description on YouTube. Go there if you want to. There was a conversation about dating. Hanifa was a part of it. Bree was a part of it. During it, there was a question that was posed by, was it hashtag blackwomen? And that's the question for the stream. But when Hanifa was speaking, I wanted to get all that out. But when Hanifa was speaking a couple of times, there was a gentleman whose name had something attorney in it. He got defensive. He interrupted Hanifa to correct her word choice. Hey, Inania. I wasn't feeling that.
Mm-hmm. It was policing language. Yeah.
Language policing. That's why I really try not to tone police or language police. Respect. You tell us, Wally. You look it up while we live.
I said Wally being here raging out, honey. Wally.
But the women, I could tell, and there's a level of I don't want to use certain trigger words. There's a level of pressure I feel when men or women in the same space, black men and black women talking about black issues. I'll say there's a level of pressure for women to show up a specific way and speak a specific way with a certain level of respect. They can't be challenging to the men. It can't be, like you said, the fragile ego. It can't be challenging to the male ego. And some of the concepts that Hanifa was bringing up, they were challenging, but they were fair. But because she used the word he didn't like, he had to derail her entire point. And that's what you were saying, the fragile ego. I do not like not being able to have the conversation. If we cannot have an honest, challenging conversation across gender lines, there's nothing further that can be done. You'll never be able to build because the economic or the work practices and just the logistics.
You can't say nothing about, what she was saying was basically like they're overcompensating in the wrong ways. That's what she basically was saying. And I mean, he could have gleaned that. He sounds like he was an intelligent guy. He could have gleaned that she meant you're overcompensating for what you lack. And that's all she meant, like.
Yeah. But that's why I know a couple of times me and you have had the same battle, like word usage versus definition.
Right.
Because I know if somebody's talking, a lot of times through context or clarifying questions, we can find out how they're using the word where we don't need to correct them. Like that's my biggest thing. So we can't ever, because we're so busy policing words, based on that, where we started, that metacognition, let's think about our thoughts. We don't all use words the same. So if everybody is making everybody else correct to their opinion, well, you can't use that word because that's not the way I would use it. And I think it's wrong and ill-informed. Well, then you've got to change the way you contextualize the entire world just to have the conversation. And I've seen this conversation on that channel. Within the Afrocentric space, there are at least 3 to 4 different perspectives that I heard. Omawale and Imo and Tawala. They all had.
Everybody's been even on the panel. I feel like I was the only one that was completely an outsider. But even amongst the 6 people, everybody had kind of different perspectives.
And if that's the case, we cannot get hung up on the small things if we want to advance in any meaningful way. So I do believe we have to start with the conversation. That's why I want to have like the tough conversations, the tough questions. What do you guys think again from the question? Go ahead. What's up? That face. You keep making the faces, but you ain't articulating the word.
I know how y'all black men act. And I'm just like, at this point, I just be like,
you're over it. You're hopeless.
No, I'm not hopeless. I just,
yes.
I don't know. it's like we can't say nothing about nothing. You know, I run a joke. We still arguing about 22K jokes. Y'all just, men, there's just certain words I know now that are landmines. And when it come to y'all, and I just be like, I'm not even gonna step on that mine.
But those are the things we need to unpack. And I think you and I did that. We went through it.
We
found where the points of sensitivity. I've made not memes, but you know, I've made emotes about it.
Yeah, we got emotes.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like all of these things, we need to be able to come to it, but that's with a level of mutual respect, a willingness to understand, and some grace for error, like room for error. We don't, and that goes back to my old principle. I don't think we treat each other as humans. So if you don't come to me perfectly in the way I see perfection, we can never have a conversation and we can never build, which means nothing will ever get done and it becomes unproductive, which goes back to the question, because other people can move in imperfection and get things done.
Man.
It don't need to be perfect. It just needs to be watched and policed. Yeah, I bet. I was annoyed for 24 hours and I wasn't even on the panel.
Really?
I wanted to come up.
Actually, it wasn't that bad. Me being on there, I was like, okay. I was just kind of listening. I found it to be quite fascinating. Yeah, I have this thing where I can shut my mind off to the. We're not in an argumentative place. We're in a just listening, and this is fascinating. You know, like getting on a spaceship and landing on another planet and just watching what they do. That's how it felt for me because I was so out of the loop, out of it. So I was just kind of like, let me listen to what these people say. You know, it just like hearing the lingo and the jargon and just the culture of it all. It was kind of cool. So I kind of was in that space. I wasn't really there to argue.
I want to skip forward because this is a part of that question that I think it's not in the question, but I think it is like behind the words. If I were a black woman, because I make this same argument from a black man's space. Black men are my biggest threat. Like day to day, micro level, black men are my biggest threat. If I walk out, like I pulled up to the house one day and there's two guys outside, one of them's posing with guns. Like, I mean, he was probably like 50 feet from me, 57. Like, but one's taking a picture and the other one's got a gun. Like one errant trigger pull while they posing with guns. Exactly. And I'm dead. You know what I'm saying? Y'all will never see me again. So my biggest threat on a day-to-day is not white people. Like the threat to my life and the threat to my safety, the threat to the people I love are black people. We get real sensitive about that when we want to bring it up in conversation.
Yeah.
And that's just the truth. Yes, there's this big, great, expansive macro threat. Yes, the government could come and say, I'm eminent domaining this place and you have to move immediately. They could come in with the police and just say, I'm taking you away and take your freedom. They could. It's unlikely. What's most likely is me being harmed by a black person. So when I map that on the black women, who the ones I know have almost to a woman all been sexually assaulted between their childhood to their adulthood, their biggest threat has been black men. Violent abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse. It's been black men. So if I'm going to be under a system, why would I sign up for the one where I know I'm going to be abused because I'm being abused?
Right.
And I have nothing. Like the 22 take, I have nothing. I'm at the bottom economically. Or the system of white supremacy where you've already said, you saw some studies. Women have a better chance at advancement within it. But I'm still going to be abused. But maybe not because I'm not in proximity with them except during professional time.
Right.
So if that's the math, if that's the balance, I'm going to take the might get harmed, but I have some economic advancement versus the I know I'm getting harmed and no economic advancement.
And then you talking about giving these same people some power. But I'm sure women on the other side is like, you don't even know. I'm sorry. I'm not signing up for that. Which is why I find it hard even sometimes when you talk about separatist movements and they're like, let's move out into a piece of land somewhere. I am not, y'all know what every time I am not going into the woods with y'all niggas. I'm sorry. I'm hard pressed to go in the woods with anybody I don't know. Actually, it don't matter what race they are because I just know how people are. And especially people that's probably coming out of a lower, they're trying to make something or there's this and there's that. I am very hard. You're not going to get me to go in the woods with nobody. So, and no, I'm sorry, but us being the same color doesn't buy you that privilege as well. Like, I'm not going to visit with nobody but my family. My family, who I know. You know what I mean? So that's, and not even all extended family, because they don't know how to act either. And then who could check them? Exactly, Mezzo. Like, and then I got 3 little girls. Like, there's no way. There's nothing about any of those plans that sound good for me and my girls. Like, none.
I don't know. It just baffled me. I was slightly disappointed that the conversation couldn't have been had. I would like this, like, as a thought exercise. I get sometimes we don't like to entertain certain thoughts, like they're meaningless and distractive. We don't like to entertain certain notions because of that. But I think sometimes having those conversations can help clarify some people's thoughts, because we assume, like that the word we were going to use today, the naive realism.
Right.
We assume that because we think and understand that something is a moot point, that everybody understands that.
Or even feels that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
We have to unpack these concepts, and if you're going to recruit people and have people join your cause or your whatever you're trying to build, you might have to explain yourself multiple times. I had to get over that with the platform, like that, like, oh, I'm back. What did I miss? Right. I was offended when people would come back, like, what did I miss? But I'm like, you know what? I don't have dominion over their time. Right. I might have to humble myself and be like, well, let me just catch people up and include them in what I'm doing. But I used to get like offended, like, man, why weren't you listening? But like, that's the ego. The ego again. It's a challenge to build around somebody's ego, and that's where a lot of this stuff breaks down. And it's fragile. It's fragile because we don't have the power. Because if we had power, I've seen people who've been doing this for a long time, and somebody's like, oh, what I missed? They're like, oh, and they rattle off what they missed.
Right.
Very quickly and succinctly. But because of my feelings about the thing, it cripples me to a basic function of conversation.
Have black men really accepted that y'all don't have power? Like, not like I know it and I try to like not acknowledge it and then just do weird shit to not have to acknowledge it. Like, do black men on generally acknowledge that y'all? Well, all of us lack the power of the 1%. Like, I'm not even talking about that power because we know it. Like, I'm just talking about power. The power. I don't know. Y'all be down bad. Have y'all acknowledged y'all down bad? That's what I'm.
Yeah, black men know they're down bad.
Okay.
The issue is what you pointed out. You pointed out that black women can actually excel in the system. I've talked about this multiple times. The economics have shifted away from physical labor to mental and emotional labor.
Right.
So women's value has increased in the professional setting, in the economics. So black women have more power than black men in the current system. Black men know they have no power and are now asking you, because and this is partially fair. Now, Bree, I know y'all gonna bristle at this. This is partially fair. Black men did not have a problem being a part of the family with you when black women were like domestics, and that's as far as you can go in society. It was like, okay, you're still family, you're still a human, you're still involved. We'll still build with whatever we have available. We'll scrimp and scrape. We'll do whatever we can. Then when the role is reversed, and again, I'm making allowance for the new money mentality, money, new power, new money. Y'all are like, nah, I got the bag, I got the money. Nah, you better meet me, you better match me, you got to do better, even though the economic conditions are not favorable to men. We can't meet and match. You're more educated overall, period. Y'all don't know how to act.
Y'all don't know how to act when y'all get in that skewed power dynamic. Y'all don't know how to act.
What skewed power dynamic are you talking about?
If the woman makes the more money, right? It doesn't matter if she treats you. There's a feeling. There's a skewed difference. Anytime anybody made more money in a relationship, it's just a power dynamic. It's not that it's bad, but some men don't know how to act. Some men don't know how to be in that space, and some women don't know how to be in that space because people still try to revert to traditional roles, but it doesn't work with a different power dynamic because traditional roles have a certain power dynamic, and that's where the issue is. So people don't know how to act. when the dynamic is not that of a traditional one. No, I've seen it, Yellow. That's not an assumption. I've seen it. I've experienced it myself. I've seen it and seen it and seen it. It's not an assumption. That is
not an assumption.
True. Not to say that y'all like cussing and crying and nothing like that. It's just that there's always an insecurity. It's the insecurity that is inherent with being the person in the position of lesser power in a relationship.
It doesn't even have to be about gender. I can show you the same dynamic if we take it out of gender. If you have an older person who's been independent their entire life and they suddenly get aged and infirm and they can't take care of themselves, they have a really hard time with their ego and their pride asking and accepting help. Some of them will sit in their beds stanky before they allow their child to help clean them or something like that. There is there is something psychological. That's why I always fall back to the psychology, the spirit, the being. I fall back on that all the time because if we don't get ourselves right as individuals, we can't escape that trap. What Bree's talking about is a fear of change. There's a change going on economically, socially, and when we feel that change is uncomfortable. Change is super uncomfortable for everybody. That's why when Nova says most, yeah, it's most, because most people are susceptible to human nature. Most people haven't done the work. So when everything's changing around you and there's a lot of uncertainty, we fear the unknown, we get scared, we panic. Men and women both. Women are coming into new power, new money. They don't know how to act. Men are coming into less power, less money. They don't know how to act. That's natural. That's actually natural. Right. My argument is if we actually had grace for each other, we could give a little room for people to figure it out. Give them a little time to figure out this new footing because they're unstable right now.
Yeah, but we just need more. But we need more introspection. Like we need more people willing to accept that they're in an insecure place because of the power dynamic. Like there's only so much I can work with. If you can't acknowledge that you feel insecure because I make more money than you, I can't do nothing with you. I cannot. You know what I mean? Like I've gone through it where you could feel that the partner has this insecurity or this like feeling or like this like lack of confidence, whatever, secondary to whatever the dynamic is. And if the person can't accept it or say it or acknowledge that maybe this is it or let you help them help themselves. I don't know. It's just a blockage there. What a lot of people tend to do when they feel that way is throw a wall up. And then once the wall is up, it's not gonna work. That's right. So it's okay to feel that way, but there has to be some acknowledgement, and that's what I'm talking about. It's usually just a wall. It's not an acknowledgement, so that there can be empathy and compassion.
Yes. Right. Now that is a problem. There are actual studies. Me and Nova talked about this in the Discord once upon a time. The distribution and that guy I played, Odie, he talked about it too. Let's say that there are several legs of a relationship. Let's say there's the economic leg, the physical leg, like maybe like things like protection and duties, household duties, chores. The mental, emotional leg, and I'll say the mental and emotional leg. That's like four legs of a relationship: financial, mental, emotional, and physical. Well, men always handled the physical exclusively. Like, the women handled the household chores, but like all the protection and going out to work and earn the money, a lot of that was on men. And they didn't handle a lot of the emotional labor. They didn't handle a lot of the mental labor. Like the woman was around the house to have to figure out anything while he was at work, 12 hours, gone. You know what I'm saying? So mental, emotional, she was by herself. The financial piece he handled exclusively, and he did most of the physical stuff except for the chores. Well, that shifted. If women, like Mezzo said, and Queen Koya here is saying, if women are working equal to the men, because most men also don't find value in their work. A lot of us are doing meaningless work. So we don't want to work any more than the 40 hours. We don't want to put in 60 to 80 hours at a job we find meaningless and depraving and just sucking our soul. So with knowing that, if we're both putting in 40 to 50 hours a week, the man and the woman, the man still does not have any inclination to come home and do any of that domestic stuff. So then the full burden of the domestic stuff falls on her. The full burden of child care falls on her because the only thing he really wants to do with the children is play. And go we have to pick up some of the emotional burden as well with the women, because if they are having to spend 40 to 50 hours working now, some of that emotional labor of listening to some of the things they have to say is going to fall on us. We're going to have to give them some of that attention that we just couldn't afford to, because we're not working 60 to 80 hours.
Right.
Give them 10 hours that you're not putting, don't put it in the PlayStation. Like, don't put it into something else. Give them some of your attention and care. But we've had a problem with that.
Right. That's what I mean. That's some of the things. It's just like falling back into programming, because, you know, it is nice to just go to work and come home and not have to do any of that. You know? What did he say? But it's just not realistic. And I mean, my mom just told me that, like, just girl, like, just know you going to work. You still gonna come home, and you gonna have to do all that other stuff. So you might want to consider just go ahead and stay at the house. Just go ahead and stay at the house if you can do it, because you waiting on the other side for this equal. It ain't happening.
Yes. See, Candidate, no.
Yeah.
So when the power dynamic in a person's life shifts, they're going to have a reaction to it. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Right.
So to the degree that somebody falls in life, the reaction is going to be as equal to the fall. Their mental or emotional reaction is going to be equal to the fall that they took. And if somebody has a climb, their mental and emotional, they're going to have an equal and opposite reaction. They're going to respond to it.
And I can empathize. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I can empathize with that feeling of being insecure and like that switch, because I worked, I think we were talking about in this in Discord. I worked from the time I was 15. And I always had my own money, and I made very good money. This wasn't one of those you ain't hardly making nothing anyway, so you might as well stay home situation, right? Like, I was making good money, so when it was time to give that up, the realization of how vulnerable I was to the power dynamic I was now entering into was a lot. So I'm empathetic that makes an independent adult feel away. So, like, and that's not gender specific. So that's why I know that is there. I know that anxiety and that insecurity and all that stuff is there. And then, of course, I'm like, and this is something I feel like I was bred and raised to know I was going to enter into one day, possibly. So, like, I can't imagine a man who is not bred and, like, prepared to enter into that power dynamic, entering into one, and then being able to reconcile that within himself very easily. Because I told y'all I cried when I closed my bank account. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know it be fucking y'all up. It's okay, but men want to try to act like, repress. I don't feel anything.
You're not suffering, Brie?
I'm not. Y'all be over there. I'm fine. Okay.
Oh, my God. Nah, there's definitely something to that. Listen, I am going to drop the link to see if anybody wants to come up and have the conversation or ask any of their points or questions. But definitely, I wanted to keep going while we were waiting on somebody, because that was interesting. I think this is where we need to go. This is why I think the communication piece is important.
Right.
Because the roles, like Queen Koya said, the roles that we're trying to hold on to traditional roles, because that's what we know.
Right.
But the society has changed where traditional roles don't really match. It doesn't make sense because the economics have changed. If the economics have changed, everything else should shift too. Everything should shift.
It's not guaranteed. I think the women we are like I said that before too. Like, I didn't grow up thinking I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, I kind of just assumed I was going to work and retire. I was going to work and I was going to retire. So I think women are already in that mind space to do that. Most women aren't looking for the traditional marriage at this point.
Can't stand you, know.
And nobody ain't coming up here anyway.
Exactly. But the problem, though, I find, though, that's why I say the communication is such a big piece. Because, like Mezzo says here, my ex-husband asked me to stay home. Asked, that's a communication. Me to stay home because he hates housework that much. He'd rather work more hours than clean the bathroom. That's a trade-off. That's a compromise. He was happier having food on demand, sex on demand, and he was willing to pay for that. We need to negotiate. That's where I do agree with Omawale. I don't think we're there, but we need to get to a negotiation. But to have a negotiation, you have to have communication. And right now, the lines are not open for communication. I would hate it
on your resume.
See, you have too much power in me. What do I do if we break up? And see, that's another thing. Trust. That's what the systems are for. Like, if the marriage failed, there were systems that would help prop you up.
Yeah, that's why I said wouldn't be doing it if I wasn't married. I'm gonna have to come drag your ass to the court. Let's go.
Each couple needs to negotiate because everybody. Here's another thing we always miss. Everybody's needs are different. Not every woman wants to be a stay-at-home wife. Some women would not want that life no matter what. You couldn't pay them enough to stay at home. They just can't see it for themselves.
Right.
Some men would love it. Some men would hate it. We actually need to have communication enough to stop assuming that we know what everybody wants. And also stop assuming what they, that's a step too far. I'm not going to go there.
Yeah.
We just need to work on ourselves to know that we need to stop assuming that we know what everybody else wants, that everybody wants the same thing we want, and we need to be able to have the conversation. Hey, understood.
Yeah, we haven't got over to staying the power dynamics of a man staying at home. I know some men who would stay home, I think, and be okay with it. I've seen some, but I know some who tried it and it was not cute. Okay, now you learned a lesson. You can't do that. That power dynamic doesn't work for you. And it takes a lot of trust also. To the traditional setup takes a lot of trust. And that's the other issue. Like consistency, stability, sustainability. Like that's hard to trust in modern people at all. Especially because the cost of living is so high. It's a lot to trust that somebody's going to be able to make enough to maintain a comfortable or decent life. So I totally, like, for me, I grew up just thinking I was going to work. I never even had it in mind that I wasn't. So I need a wife.
Isn't that crazy? And Hanifa, you are right. Both are in pain. We rather focus on the women. What I feel like we've missed is that it's a I know you say this also too, Hanifa. It's a symbiotic relationship. We both have a piece that we need to be working on simultaneously. Mm-hmm. But I think the most important piece of that is actually humanizing each other again, where our communication could be with respect and regard and honor, so that we could even have a negotiation at all. Because until we get to the point where the people feel respected, so we can even trust you in a we don't even trust each other to talk to each other with a certain way. How are we going to do anything beyond that? That's the part where I always see that I can't see doing anything if we can't even speak to each other. She was like, "How would you tired?"
It's getting hard to make the right decision.
But that's the piece you said about the economics. That's the other piece I believe we need to understand, or I say give grace. Because people are dealing with a lot of shifts. There's a lot of change going on all at once. It's not just the economic shift in society. There's the social shift, how we relate to each other, the digital domain,
gender roles.
All of these things are up in the air. People are unsettled. And if we can't give room, give a little grace for people to find their place, the room to breathe in this new time, I think we're doing each other and ourselves a disservice. I see people like the whole divester, the MGTOW, everybody's being driven out of the relationship space, just like out of fear or anger. I think we need to spend more time on the healing part. There's a lot of healing that has to happen separately first, in my opinion, is to say exactly. That's what I believe. That's what I believe. Because I don't see a way, if you're still hurting and you're still hurtful, how you can communicate and relate safely without doing more harm. That's why I really think people need. I was having that whole conversation with Wally earlier. Wally's like, now we need to set them free. Like, people need to separate themselves for a time so they can come to the children and the children. Separate the children until they calm down. Because right now it is a war. Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure.
I'm making a face because I just be like, somebody, never mind. Hey, Mandrill.
Hey, how you doing?
What's up?
All right, Sean, how's it going?
Man, good. How you feeling, bro?
Exhausted.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that.
To an extreme amount, yes. I don't even think I'm gonna make it to jiu-jitsu today, and I don't miss that at all. I do that some days. I do that 3 times in a day. Like that, I actually love doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I don't think I'm gonna make it. I'm too tired.
Well, I hope you're able to get some rest.
So am I. You know, I got my clothing line, so I was working on that for the past 2 nights. I think I slept maybe 2 hours in the past 2 nights. Past 48 hours, yeah. So I mean,
there you go.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple of days, and I was supposed to be on Blackmen Foot's platform tonight, but I don't think I'm going to make that either. I would take a nap. Yeah, I would take a nap and go over there and try to make that, but I'm like, nah, I might go ahead and send him a message saying, "Look, bro, I'll catch you tomorrow."
You want that? That sounds bad, man. You good? You straight?
I'm just tired, dude. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm all right. Otherwise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
what you think about the question being posed or the conversation thus far, sir?
Well, didn't catch much of the conversation. Are black women better off under white supremacy than black men? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I disagree. White supremacy, in the way that we define it, I mean, the way we know it in today's society, definitely not. That's subjugation. And under black men aren't looking for subjugation. Again, I say black men, not black boys or black males. Black men are not looking for subjugation. You know what I mean? I don't, like I told my girlfriend, if I could make you do everything, wave my hand and make you and command you to do whatever I wanted you to do, I wouldn't do it. I don't want a robot. You know, I need someone else's perspective. I need someone to bounce ideas off of. I need someone to have a conversation with. You know, you hear a lot of stuff in red pill, in the red pill community, but that throws people off. But I don't think black men are looking for that at all. I mean, if you are, you're going the wrong way. Why would you want that? That's boring. You know. But that's just my take on as far as the answer to the overall the topic. You know, no, definitely not.
All right. Well, let me welcome Wally Africa to the panel for the first time. Appreciate you for popping up to expound, sir.
Hello. We can't hear you if you're talking. I see he's unmuted. There you go.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
All right, yeah, y'all got frozen for a second. What's going on, y'all? How y'all doing?
Doing good, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing good. I just happened to tune in for a couple of minutes of the stream, and I was like, this is my type of conversation. So, may I ask what inspired the combo?
Oh, definitely. I did credit you in the description on YouTube. I did say it was a conversation from your dating panel. That the hashtag Black Women question was posed from their channel, and that due to whatever the question couldn't be broached completely based upon everybody's conflicting interests. So I definitely wanted to actually think about the question with people. So that's what brought that up. So I did, definitely got you in there tag.
Yeah, well, no, that's cool. But I will say, Brother Rashawn, I want to invite you on to going off topic so we can, sit down and have a good, just a one-on-one and just have a deeper level conversation, because I think that one of the difficulties with discussing racism, white supremacy, kind of like in some of these popular conversations, is oftentimes we don't even have a grounding as to what it is. And I think that when you don't have that proper context, a lot of the conversation, I think the conversation can be a bit misleading. Let's say that, when you don't have that proper context. So I guess I would just ask the question, like, was it spoken on already in terms of, do women benefit more under the system, or do men benefit more?
Yeah.
We definitely talked about whether women. Yes, we did talk for Black women. We did speak about how Black women have a better chance at advancement than Black men under the current economic conditions in America. So we're trying to ground it with specifics.
Okay. Did y'all get into the why? I'm just asking questions because, like I said, I only caught like the last few minutes of the show. So did y'all
We got into it. We got into the education piece. The education piece and the shift from physical labor to mental and emotional labor.
Okay. So can I ask either of the hosts, either Bree or Rashawn, and I'm sorry for asking so many questions, but either one of y'all, like, what is y'all understanding of racism, white supremacy? Like, what do y'all believe it to be?
I can go first. I think when we were talking about specifically with this question, my understanding of white supremacy in this question is the current, like, America capitalism is built off white supremacy, chattel slavery. You know, so my understanding is everything about our system is it's the system, period. It's a part of it. It's in everything. So I don't see it as a separate thing. So I kind of looked at it more from under capitalism in America, which is built off the back of white supremacy, is still helping white supremacy. Are women better off? Do women have better outcomes than Black men in the current system? And my answer was, like, if you're talking about looking at it under the capitalist gaze, upward mobility outcomes, then yes. So that was kind of my perspective with answering the question.
And that portion there, if I may, that portion there I would disagree with. It's not the I don't think it's the capitalism itself that's helping Black women with it, is where they have their advantages. Not where they have their advantages are social programs. Now, I agree with you, Bree, that the system is all one thing, but there's just a lot of different parts of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a lot of different parts. So the part that gives them their advantage are the social programs. And,
right.
And for example, affirmative action was meant for Black men. However, the people who benefited the most were Black women because they clicked two boxes. Number one, they're African American. Number two, they're female. So you know what I mean? Yeah, they had a clear advantage. And once companies, especially private industry, noticed that, that's when they said, "Oh yeah, let's go with the Black women," and Black men just kind of got left out. You know what I mean?
I agree with.
There, I agree with you as well. You know, but it's the social programs that really gave them the boost up. As with capitalism, it's going to create a poor middle and upper class by its sheer architecture, just by existing. It's going to create that. It has no choice but to. Otherwise, it just wouldn't exist. And Black people since we were already at the bottom, they were put in place to keep us there, because we were, by the time, you know, the Voting Rights Act or the Civil Rights Act came into play, we were just low-hanging fruit at that point. And it was just easy to just keep us there. And by that time, the whole strategy that came out of the Willie Lynch letter, that had been so ingrained in us, till you fast forward to today, we're on autopilot. No one has to put effort into subjugating us or keeping us down because we do it to ourselves. It's just people have debated me on, just tried to debate me on whether the Willie Lynch actually existed or not. I say it doesn't matter if he existed or not. The letter is real, the strategy is real, and you look at today, look at the results. It worked.
Right, and I base my answer off the statistics that, like, even if if you look at Black men and Black women who, if they came from a upper class, the same background, Black men still have worse outcomes.
I agree with you, Bree.
So let me introduce Yella real quick. Yella, man, I appreciate you for coming up. I do want to answer our brother Omawale's question because he did ask me as well. And then I want to hear your question too, Yella. Brother Omawale, my understanding of racism, white supremacy, because it's such a complicated thing. It's become so abstract. It's so, what is that? It's not overt and covert. It's hard to explain in totality in a short form. The best way for me to analogize it to my understanding is, let's say a Black person was a child. We were kidnapped into someone's house. We live in that person's basement, but it's their house. They set everything, they furnished it. All the temperatures are set to their liking or their specifications. Everything that comes in and out, including the food, the utilities, everything is governed by them. Who can move into what rooms and how often, how fast, who can go in and out the door, all of that. That's like immigration, coming in and out the door. All of the things are decided by somebody else that kidnapped us. So we're still living there. While they're having children, they have their own children. They allow other people to stay there. They take on borders. But we were kidnapped, and we have a lesser existence within that same household. So that household treats us disparately. We're always going to be pushed in that same vein, but we still have room to operate within that house. So within that operation that we have available, we have to do everything we can to either, one, if we're talking about actively opposition, it has to be subversion. That's the method. It's not open warfare because you're outnumbered. And like everybody says, if you threaten the system that everybody benefits from, they're going to protect that system. They're not going to protect you. That's not going to be the way it's going to happen. So it would have to be subversion. It would have to be covert. Otherwise, if you're subjugated, you either submit or you subvert. If we're not talking about submission and operating within the system, then we need to subvert it. So that's the way I come at that.
And they'll even prevent their own kind from throwing a monkey wrench in the program as well. You know, it's that serious. It's this. Arshawn is right. It's the system that they're protecting at all costs. You know,
because some people benefit from it. But I want to hear Yella's question, and then I want to Omawali because he was asking the questions to get to somewhere else.
Right.
But I want to allow him to get. Let me real quick, Yella. If you can give me a moment of grace, I know you might be at work. But brother Omawali, if you can take that next step in your thought.
No, I think it's
all right.
important.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, sir. Yeah, if you can give us a quick second to let Omawali land his thought.
I was just saying, I think it's important to properly ground any conversation around racism, white
Right, so
supremacy.
go ahead.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, he just on the
He got a delay. He got a delay.
Okay. No, I was just saying, well, first of all, I appreciate both of y'all responses. And I'll just say this, like, I think it's very important for us as a people to ground any conversation that we have around racism, white supremacy within its proper context. And that context should always be viewed through the lens of war. I think that a major reason why so many of us have, I guess, difficulty looking at the analysis through that particular lens is because, you know, a lot of us come to our understanding of racism in very similar ways, right? So if you kind of like learned about the history of our struggle as a people, you know, via the public school system, which most of us have, like there's just so much that's just missing from the analysis that we use to understand our situation. And for that reason, we never really arrive at the proper context of it being a situation of war. And I think that once you get there, you can kind of better understand you know, how the pieces on the board are being moved, you know, in any wartime situation, especially, you know, where you have, I guess, a colonial situation. If you kind of like just study their history, you know, incorporating women into their program economically and politically has always been a major, you know, strategy that they use. So, you know, if you're gonna make the men of a group, you know, economically obsolete, you have to put something in place so the women of that particular group can sustain themselves, or else they'll see their struggle as one and the same with their men. So I think that the goal has always been to kind of like drive that rift between us. So, you know, I don't think it's really about who's doing better under the system. I think it's about properly understanding the system and how it manipulates us against one another. But I think that's a much deeper conversation. The how and the why is a conversation that I think is much deeper. So
yeah, that's definitely fair. I appreciate that, sir.
Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to you, bro. I want to get you on the show for an interview. So I'll send you an email.
All right, we'll do. Thank you.
All right, bro.
Thank you.
Yellow Pill Coffee, man. I know you got a delay, so just understand you have a delay.
He gonna yell. It's gonna come in so loud.
Go ahead. That's
all right. Can y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, I'm trying not to be loud. I'm outside the gig, so I'm right here by the street. But I did have one little section that I did want to comment on real quick.
Okay, is he talking?
He cut out.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Oh,
I'm
there you
cutting out.
go. He back. Okay, we didn't hear nothing after that. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Let me see. I'm trying to make sure. All right. Now it was one part of the conversation that I did want to kind of touch on, and it was about the male dynamics or whatever, or like how can I put it? Like men getting upset or like feeling a certain type of way because we don't have power, right?
Okay.
I think that was kind of the conversation. Like, do black men recognize we don't have power? And it's like we're losing power, or we're having an issue with this power shift, right?
Good.
So I would tend to argue this. Arshawn is about the age where I would cut it off, right? Arshawn, have you ever experienced a world where black men were a powerful people?
See, man, you gotta. I don't want to be. If you're talking about within the American system, were we powerful within the American system? I would say no.
I'm talking about in the totality. I'm talking about in totality when it even come down to our community. Have you, at your age, have experienced a black community where men were in power?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was young, I was around communities. Yeah, when I was young, we actually had a neighborhood where we knew each other. We knew the men. They saw when the kids were doing crazy stuff. Like when I was young, there was an actual community. Like that was an actual thing for me.
Okay.
But again, I'm a little older, so I was closer to. I was born in the 70s, so the 80s we still had some stuff intact, and there was some area. I lived in areas where crack hadn't just torn it apart. So even though it was bad, we still had. And the church at the time in the 80s, the church was still a role. The church still played a role as a community hub. But go ahead and finish up on my.
Okay, no, and it's a point to be made, but I'm brainstorming. That's why I was like, okay, maybe it's not, because when I'm looking at it, like, I know men in my.
Yeah, you cutting out, bro.
Yeah, he cutting out too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to hear that too.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's like he was getting ready to rock out, didn't it?
Yeah. We don't.
Oh, he don't even know he cutting out.
Yeah, he underwater. Yeah, poor guy.
He can't hear.
He in the car.
And ain't got no Wi-Fi.
Yeah, this my drive-by car segment.
I see. Yeah.
Now, actually, the trash part is I was trying to use the little Wi-Fi connection. Now I'm better off just on my data. You know what I'm saying? So I was trying to use it. But fuck it. No, but I was trying to kind of say like this, man. I don't understand where this idea of we don't understand that we never experienced that. Most men out here that's like trying to move around, we haven't experienced communities or even like on a major scale where black men are like in power. So I don't understand where this idea that we don't know how to handle this power shift when we was never in power. There was, you know what I'm saying? There was never an element where we had total control. Because for a long time, the black community been what I would consider matriarchy. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of why I be looking like, what, you know what I'm saying? We can't be like, oh, the fathers ain't been around and they ain't been doing this and the mothers been that means we don't have no power then, y'all. Like if that's the case, because we didn't, you know what I'm saying? Over the last 35 years, black men ain't had influence over the community or power over the community or control over how kids getting raised, none of that. So we didn't grow up with that. We didn't grow up with this sense of power and you know what I'm saying? Like we need to control that. So I don't understand where that comes from, especially when it comes to the women making more than, you know what I'm saying, more than a man and we don't know how to handle it. No, it's not that.
Talking about like relationship dynamic. I wasn't talking about community. I'm just saying like most men, whether they saw it or not, when they get in a relationship, tend to settle into a traditional roles.
Because that's what's requested of us.
That's not, I don't think so. I think people just settle into what they think they're supposed to do. I don't think actually anybody knows what they're doing. But I think that typically if you just watch young people who get in a relationship, they settle into traditional gender roles. So I was only talking about in the relationship dynamic. Like most
Your
men
word
aren't
is
like
that
to
is
be a
fucking
stay-at-home
awesome.
dad, or most men don't grow up thinking I'm gonna be a stay-at-home dad. And like if the kids are born, it's never really usually most couples aren't gonna, okay, are you gonna stay home or am I gonna stay home? Like most people don't see that. Like that's not the picture in their head as to how a relationship should be. And that's not to say you can't find yourself there. But growing up, or when you first start getting relationships, most people don't have that other picture of a relationship. It's the traditional model, and most people step into that by default. That's what I'm talking about. So when men
Right.
find themselves not in that setup, they tend to like kind of not know how to move.
Right,
Yeah.
because check it out though. No matter what, women are always told to participate and to look for a traditional setup.
No, I
To
wasn't.
look for a traditional setup. Yeah.
No, I was raised
Work.
knowing. I've said that multiple times on here. I grew up knowing I was gonna work till I retired. I never grew up thinking I was gonna be a stay-at-home mom, wife, even if I had kids. I grew up knowing and understanding that I was gonna work until I retired.
That's what you was told. That's what you was told to look for, or that's what you chose.
No, I mean
Yeah,
it's
real
just
quick.
like if you. Yeah, go ahead.
Now, I'm about to say, I want to interject real quick because, like, I think even Yella knows this. How it might be slipping his mind. This one is a generational thing, because after a certain time point, the women were taught that you need to be able to take care of yourself. Don't depend on a man. So I think even you've heard that, and I think you even said that before. So I
Right,
think
right,
you
right,
know-
right.
Yeah.
Right. And I ain't
So
trying to, I'm limited on time. I ain't trying to, that part I get. But the caveat to that is if you get a man, he better be able to take care of you. You see what I'm saying? All that's what you gotta do. Right. That's the caveat to that. Like while they're by themselves, they are encouraged, hey, take care of you. Don't depend on no man. Don't count on no man to take care of the things you need. However, when it comes to being with a man, he better be able to take care of you. That's the thing about it. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to the relationship, he better be able to handle all the traditional fucking roles. He better be able to provide, protect, do all that, take care of you, make sure you rest in your femininity, all of that shit, right?
I'm gonna disagree with that.
I'm gonna agree, but I'm gonna add a caveat to your caveat. Like Yella, I think what you're talking about is women.
That's all you hear.
No, y'all as men hear that.
But there's a
that's what I'm
caveat.
saying.
What I'm saying though is real quick, Yella, is that women do have that built in through the need for stability, security. If something would happen to me, your income has to provide for the entire pot. So that's where that number comes from. That's why they say you have to match me. That if I'm doing good with 80K, if that's where my sustainability level is, well, if I lose that, you have to have 80K to take care of the 80K I've lost. So that's where that number, that's why that level set is at what I'm at. That way, if I lose me, as far as economics, then you have my back to the exact same level and I don't have a drop off. Which, I mean, that's just a mentality that they've adopted.
Do you think that outlook is vice versa?
Well, because we have to
ain't
have
gotta be.
kids. I mean, it comes from
That's what I'm talking about though. Hold on, because that's what I'm talking about. We tell the men that we need to get comfortable with getting outside the gender norms, but every time a man presents something or option that's outside of the gender norms, they try to shame him. If he say, man, I want a woman that's gonna go 50-50 with me, he gets shamed. If he say he want a woman that's gonna propose to him, he gonna get shamed. So I'm saying there's what's said and there's what's being accepted. And that's why I'm like, I get what you mean by the dynamic of she makes more and he might feel a certain type of way. He might not feel a certain type of way. All of that influence now comes from outside. It comes from outside influence. Like I said, the reason women don't want to actually have a man and take care of him and spend their money on him and they be the breadwinner is because of the reception they're going to get from the outside. They worried about how everybody gonna look at them, how everybody gonna judge them and they man. The same thing with men. Men, a reasonable man at my age who been working and taking care of himself ain't gonna be mad at no motherfucking woman that want to come in and take over the motherfucking load. The problem is I'm gonna have to deal with everybody looking at me crazy. Why you ain't taking care of yourself? Why you ain't working? Why you ain't got this, that, and the other? And that's what's gonna make me feel some type of way as a man. Not what's going on in my house. Because if it ain't no outside influence in my house, guess what? I never feel bad about the situation I'm in.
But
It's
that's
all
societal
outside
pressure,
influence.
though. That's societal pressure. That's who taught you that in the first place, and that's who's gonna put that pressure on you. So I never said it's something wrong with you. I just said eventually most of the men end up feeling the way. I never was specific about where it came from. That could be coming from her family, your family. That could be coming from within yourself because it's an insecure place. It's a vulnerable place. It makes some people highly anxious. So, I mean, I agree with that, but also I was going to say my disagreement is, well, most of the time we're thinking that way because if we're going to have babies, us being pregnant could take us out of work. So we always kind of have to think about it. Like, I have to think about it. If we have kids together, I potentially will not be able to work while I'm pregnant or in the immediate period after I'm pregnant. Whether I think, you think your baby's done, but that's always a consideration. So you have to also understand that most women are assuming if I pair off with this man and have his babies, I could potentially have to not work for a time. So that's always there. Which why most of my girlfriends who got older, who made a lot of money, are much more comfortable dating men who make less than them after they've had kids and they're like, I ain't gonna have no more. So I just feel like you also have to consider that that's why a lot of women in a certain age think about that. Because
I know, and I'm gonna say that. Hold on, real quick, man, Joe, because I'm gonna say this, and I gotta get back to work, y'all. The point I'm trying to make is, Bree, I'm 35. I ain't trying to have no more kids. You shouldn't be. As a 35-year-old woman, that shouldn't be no option. I'm just talking about for the single folks at this point in our life, right? Like 9 times out of 10, whoever I meet gonna have her kids that she done already had in her life. Most people at our age is gonna have unless you meeting somebody in their 20s or early 30s.
So they usually are a lot more flexible as they get older.
Absolutely not. They worse.
Okay.
They worse. Because then they expect you to come in and cover all of that shit. So that's what I'm saying. It's not a situation where men won't adapt to new gender norms. It's the fact that the rest of the world won't allow men to be comfortable in new gender norms.
It's always been the rest of the world. That's why I keep on talking about a lot of the stuff that we feel pressured about is societal norms. It don't usually be what your actual partner say to you. A lot of that is like the pressure women feel to look a certain way, all this stuff. Like we've already acknowledged in many conversations that most of the pressures that people feel are not always directly their partner. Most of the time is what you think because of what society been telling your ass since you was like 12.
Yeah, but to Yella's point, like this is a generational thing. For example, the baby boomers, the generation before myself and Arshawn's generation, which are the ones who really messed stuff up. I think that they understood that to be married and to make it work, both the men and the woman have to work together to do this, right? And so women, I don't remember women being so concerned with a guy making a lot of money. You know what I mean? I don't remember. I could be wrong. That's why I say I don't remember it, because I've never heard, until recent times, I've never heard women say this stuff until like, I think it started like in the 90s.
Millennials. You know what I mean, I'm a millennial. I was a kid in the 90s. So like, I never grew up thinking I was going to be a wife with a whole bunch of kids at the house.
Right. So
that's literally wasn't even what was modeled on TV for me. So like,
gotcha. But the thing is, like, so my point is, that lesson had been lost. And you may have heard me say this on other platforms before, I'm not sure, but I say all the time that you have today, and for several generations now, girls are not taught to cooperate with men. They're not raised that way. They're not taught that way. And boys are not taught to cooperate with women. You know what I mean? Like, girls are not raised to be wives. Whether they want to be, I think that whether you want to be married or not, you should be taught how to be married, just in case you decide to go that route one day. So at least you have the tools you need to navigate, that part of your life. You know what I mean? You can work with your wife can work with you, and you can build a life together. Somehow all the generations before all this nonsense figured that out, and they had it. Now, whether the marriage worked or not, different story.
Yeah, the marriages was trash. The marriages trash when some kids get grown, they get the fuck on.
See, that's the thing. I mean, just because you know how to be married doesn't mean that you're a good person and you know how to treat your spouse correctly. But you made the marriage work. You raised kids together. You know what I'm saying? Then those kids left the house with the tools they needed to navigate. Did they use those tools properly or not? Different story, but they had them. They knew better. You know. And so I think that's a lost. That has already become a lost art in today's society, from my observation. And it's a big thing that's missing. We need to get that back. Again, whether these kids use the skills or not, different story. However, they do need to have those lessons and those skills to probably be in at least a decent marriage, or at least raise children properly. You know, it's a sad state of affairs out here.
Is it me or is Mandrell starting to break up?
He breaking up, yeah. Mandrell, you breaking up.
I'm breaking up.
Before
Storm
you break off, you answer this question and add candidate and post.
Too much.
Mandrell, she said, based on the black men you've seen, in these cases.
And their talking points, do you think black families can thrive with black men's leadership? Canadian, you know I love you. Through and through. You know that. That's Canadian's my girl, y'all. I mean, but based on this on these YouTube talking points that I see in YouTube, not them. Not those guys. Women wouldn't thrive under the guys I see on YouTube. Most of the guys I see on YouTube. And when I say most, I'm talking about in the 90th percentile. There's very few of them. You know what I mean? That are on YouTube.
Everybody's so caught up in how everything's supposed to look.
Right. There are very few guys on YouTube who got at least 2 brain cells to rub together. And I've been told to stop calling people stupid, but no, in this case, no, they're stupid.
People are stupid. And
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Get so caught up. Like, I just want, like, when I talk about face to face, the reality of where you are, like, it fully, like, that's what I'm saying. I think most people are reasonable and like, okay, I don't make enough money for a person to stay home. Okay, follow the thought all the way through then. Like, what is life going to look like for you then? Like,
right.
I just don't think people should, like, follow the vision all the way through. Okay, then, okay, that's cool. What might life look like for you then? What kind of partner would you need for that kind of life? What kind of characteristics would they maybe need if that's going to be the reality that you find yourself in? I just don't think most people follow the thought through.
Yeah, and like the woman I'm with now, the reason, remember, Brie, I told you I'm going to marry this one. Like she looked at my situation. Like she knows I've started one business and I'm starting another security company, right? And she looked at all this, and she goes on to asking me questions about it, and she starts telling me what she could do. Hey, I could take care of this. You know, I'm a notary. You know, I'm a notary as well, right? I'm like, no, I didn't know that. He said you need these documents notarized. I could do that for you. You know what I'm saying? I said, okay. Boom, she does it. Right? Turn it in. Everything's golden. Then she starts looking at other things. You don't have a degree in accounting. I said, yeah. Okay, I can handle this portion of that business. She's telling me how she could be useful and help me out. You know what I'm saying? And be a part of it. And I'm just like, okay, this is what it takes. Like without us having a conversation about cooperation or any of the stuff you hear on YouTube.
Have a conversation. It's either a person knows how to work well in groups or they don't. Y'all don't remember how they used to be on the progress report when you was in school? Works well with others.
Right, exactly. And the thing is, like, this is what it is. Like, people, I think it's just a lost art of learning how to cooperate with one another and work together. You know what I mean? And you need that to navigate life, whether you're male, female, whether you're whether you're going to be married or single, you need that. And like for me,
are seriously lacking on the skill.
Exactly, both of them, because it's not being taught. You know, I saw a video of a woman yesterday. She had like 6 kids, and all of them are sitting in the picture. Some of them are holding guns and holding gang signs, real guns, not toys. And I was like, okay, instead of teaching them that, why don't you teach these boys how to clean the house?
Well, you learn cooperation
math
at home and in communities, though. Like in communities, like it's more opportunities to learn how to work well with others. So like even when you like in your house, like I remember when we were kids, we grew up in a pretty like, you know, it was Black community and everybody knew each other. going outside of your house and learning how to play with other people from other families who don't, some of the kids cuss. We weren't allowed to cuss. Like, it's not just in your house. You don't just stay home and learn how to work with other people, because then that's your culture of your own family. And you see that because when people talk to people who don't agree with them or don't have the same worldview, rules, regulations to how they move that they do, people don't know how to act. People don't know how to deal with that. And you learn that in community situations. You learn that when you leave your house and you got to play with the badass kids down the street who cuss and steal, and you got to make sure they don't steal your shit, right? That's where you actually learn how to cooperate. And because a lot of people don't come from communities or just stay at home all the time or just whatever, that's why the cooperation is seriously lacking. So that's why people don't know how to cooperate. I don't think you can learn true cooperation under the rule of your parents alone, because you're subjugated to them, since we've been using that word today. You under their subjection. You don't get to actually learn how to negotiate and cooperate with most traditional parents as well, because if you push back, you getting beat.
Right. That's something that parents aren't teaching. That's why things like cooperation and biggest thing, conflict resolution skills are sorely lacking. Even I think that goes down from all generations. When it comes to, and I grew up in a Black community as well, and so I know exactly what you guys are talking about, where like the kids who stole, my parents didn't even let them in the house. Can such come over? No.
But when you go outside with them,
you go outside with them, everything's fine. You can go outside and play with them all the long day, but they're not coming in the house. You know what I'm saying? So I know exactly what you mean.
Everybody knew who had your bike when it went missing.
Yeah.
Everybody knew who house to go to.
And I think that not only are there a lack of Black communities, fewer Black communities today than there used to be, but the idea of what a community is, that has been lost as well. So even in Black neighborhoods, quote unquote, they don't know how to be a community. And I think the jig is up also on the Black church. We know too much about them now. We know that they are the cause of a lot of things, like a lot of pregnancy terminations. The Black church, the Black church brought that onto the Black community. They're not solely responsible, but they're the ones who pushed it on us. You know what I'm saying? Because when Planned Parenthood started back in the day with that eugenicist chick, you know what I'm saying? The chick who's a eugenicist, they went to the Black church and talked to all those Black pastors up in Harlem, and that's when it started. The Black church started pushing their agenda for them, and it went over like gangbusters. And as unfortunate as it is, Black women were experimented on and sterilized and all kind of stuff. Shenanigans going on. So there's a lack of community in church as well. And then you got the prosperity. You got prosperity. You can still find some, yes, but
you can find. They're not gonna be Black, but they just gonna be like a neighborhood that like
But the thing is, the biggest part of it is that it's the lack of trust now. Like the trust is gone now for a lot of men in church and a lot of women as well. But you see chiefly women in church nowadays because prosperity gospel, it makes people feel good. You know what I'm saying? And you go to church, you want to feel good. You don't want to hear hellfire and brimstone. Everyone's going to hell. Everyone will die. You're all evil. Shut up. You know what I mean? No, people don't want to hear that every week.
I never went to church until I was an adult. So,
good grief. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to make sure we greet Wally, man. Wally,
hey,
thank you for coming up, man. How you feeling tonight, bro?
Hey, Wally.
A little low. There you go.
I'm right.
We listening. What's up?
Would you come up to defend? I know you had that white flag. You was waving the white flag. I can see that.
No, that's for jokes. But but like I said earlier, like, bro, who's gonna teach him? It's like at the end of the day, who's gonna teach him? If you know good and well, your father's not gonna tell you. Other than constantly tell you the same old. Oh, you ain't gonna date until you're certain age old and this and that. My thing is, but you never break it down to explain. It's like what I say is law. That's it. Done deal. Sit your behind down somewhere. And that's the whole point. This is why it goes left every single time. I mean, granted, let's say hypothetically, if fathers do explain why they ain't ready for relationships, all that other shit, and they still go out and do it.
At least you told them. I'll say it like that. At least you freaking told them, so they know ahead of time. But I think at this point, I mean, just breaking down like understanding cooperation or communication, everything of that nature, it's not even going to be taught because we're talking about. Okay, I don't know, Mandrell. I know, like the last time we was in the back over at Sir Hell. I don't know if you remember, right? But I don't know if you remember because I don't know if you was there at that time or whatever. But even to this point, I say it like this: a lot of men out here that talk on these panels, if you really listen to them, I always compare them to two formats. Are they the wolf or are they the lion? And why do I compare them in these two formats? Because if you understand the wolf nature and how they move within their pack, they move as a whole cohesive group. But the lion only cares about his herd, meaning the inside of his family.
Yeah, the lion does. He does. He only cares about his pride.
And a lot of men out here
DNA,
only speaking amongst themselves in their own pack. They're not really speaking community. So a lot of these dudes out here, they're like lion and wolf clothing. They're speaking community, but they're still talking about themselves. So that's just my thing about that.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between collective and community. I think a lot of times there's a lot of collective individuals as opposed to, like, even when I was listening to the conversation around Afrocentric groups, but there was a lot of individualistic leanings behind what they were saying. A lot of it was very individual. Like if you don't think like I think, if you don't say like I say, if you don't read what I read, like then if you have to be precisely a duplicate of me, that's not collectivism. I mean, that's not true collectivism. That true collectivism and community would be a lot of different people with different ideas and notions, but maybe a shared value or a common goal. But if we can't agree on some other things being different and we be okay with that, then that's like you said, it's a grouping of individuals. But I do agree with that to a point.
Yeah, that's never gonna stand. Like even me, as hard as and stern as people think I am, when it comes to getting things done, I always leave people, even when I'm in charge, I always leave people open to improvisation, because we can plan. The four of us can sit here and plan as thoroughly as any group of human beings can, to the last detail. However, when it comes to practical application, things are gonna happen that we didn't foresee. You know what I'm saying? So Bree is gonna have to, instead of going left at the second traffic light, she might have to go right and take 2 lefts to get back on the road. You know what I'm saying? She might have to go around some stuff. You know what I'm saying? And Arshawn might have to do things, even though we talked about it, you're gonna do some things a certain way. You might have to do them a different way when you get to certain points. Same thing with Wally. You have to leave people. You can't be too stuck in your ways. It can't be my way or the highway. You know what I'm saying?
Well, most people want to dominate in their relationship, so that's kind of the problem.
I get it. And
why you say most people want to dominate in a relationship? They don't know. Most people don't know healthy relationship dynamics. When they enter, they think they do. You want to dominate. That's it. They just want to dominate, and they want to feel away, and the other person is there to serve that purpose.
I agree with Bree.
And ain't nobody fucking with people like that.
You can't be my way the hard way. My thing is this: okay, let's come up with a plan to get things done. If we run into problems along the way, as thoroughly as we can. If we come around problems along the way, okay. If you need help, ask. Get someone to help you. You know what I mean?
Honestly, but that's the problem.
Figure a way of getting it done. I don't care how you get it done, as long as it's safe and and legal. I understand sometimes you might have to bend the law. Other times you might have to break it. Just don't get caught.
That's much too simplified. Like that other stuff is typically where the problems show up.
Yeah, they are. It is. I agree, but my thing is
most people don't know how to problem solve. Most people don't like to ask for help. Most people have insecurities and fucked up attachment styles and stupid ideas of what emotional you know, what burdens the other person's supposed to carry and they supposed to carry, and what purpose the person's supposed to serve in their life now that they're in a partnership. Like most people just,
and just because you're in charge of something,
don't be making that. Don't
just
make that face.
Yeah, and just because you're in charge of something doesn't mean that you have to dominate that person. Like,
but see, most people just don't know any other way to be than to dominate.
Right, that's the only model they've seen. Like, real quick, I'm gonna just tie this back into what Brother Omawale was talking about. This is what he was leaning towards. Like, if you're in a system where dominance is the societal structure, like, you're going to adopt principles of dominance. You're going to take that. You're not going to like, that's the whole conversation about that conditional femininity. Like, you're not going to code switch out of the way your mind is structured when you step into your relationship. So everything is going to be a competition for resources, and even if that resource is something abstract like love or attention, there's still going to be a competition for it. So that's the mindset. I know how I would bridge that concept. It's the same thing if you're in society and it's super hyper competitive, hyper what do you talk? We dehumanize people, objectification. If that's the model that society uses, you're going to adopt that because you're in it. You're steeped in it. Like, bang, you're born into the darkness. You're probably not going to see the light until you're an adult, and by then the light's only blinding. So by the time you see how the system has shaped and molded you, it's really hard to come out of that. So dominating is something that we learn naturally. That dominance and the hierarchy and the power structure, that's what we learn first. Learning to be gentle and kind and graceful with each other. That's the work and the burden that we have to take on. I just want to shout out to Not Your Average Guy. Good evening. And when Bree was talking about dominant relationships, Yella had a quote. Most people aren't looking for someone to be with. They're looking for someone to bend to their will.
Most people are megalomaniacs in relationships. They just want to feel like they're in control and powerful.
Honestly, dominate your area of expertise and play up on your strengths. Yes. And shore up your weaknesses. Relationships are a dynamic ebb and flow of leadership. I agree completely. It should not be singular one-way dominance. That's not a relationship, not a mutual relationship. That's another form of subjugation. If this is one way, I dominate everything. That's just subjugation.
And I don't think most people gonna sign up for that. I don't think most people want that or sign up for that.
I don't think
Even
so
in
either.
traditional back in the day, I think a woman still would want to feel to some degree that she is loved and valued. She don't want to just be there to be dominated.
Right. And even my girlfriend, as submissive as she is, again, this whole thing about submission. Arsha, I don't know if you went back through our catalog over there on our platform and you saw my episode on when I taught guys. I specifically told guys throughout the whole episode this is how you get submission from a woman, right?
I'm gonna do it.
And I said it had nothing. I said, fellas, it got nothing to do with the woman, really. It's all your fault. You know what I mean?
I mean, she makes the choice.
Exactly. Yeah, she has to make the choice, and when she does, respect it, whether it's in your favor or not. Number one, you have to be a good person. It's just don't be you guys go back and watch it. It was really good. I didn't get a single. It's called The Answer. That's the name of the episode. The Answer. Yeah.
I do that.
And Dr. Average Guy said his wife never bent. He failed. She never bent to their will.
Yeah, but I didn't get a single woman to push back on me on that. Every woman that who watched that episode, and I asked the question, "Is this how you get submission from women?" They said yes. Every single one.
Besides, we don't care about it nearly as much as y'all do. So
exactly, it's something that you guys do naturally. If it's the right, if the guys, and the thing is, it depends on. Or you don't. Thank you, because I put that in the end too. There's some women, fellas, who are just not gonna do it, no matter what kind of guy you are. Now you have a decision to make there. If you want a submissive woman, then you walk. But if it doesn't matter to you, okay, shoot your shot and see where it goes. If you ain't got shit to submit to, then why are you looking for a submissive woman? There you go. There you go. Thank you. There you go. Thank you, Bree.
You ain't even doing shit. Why are you looking for somebody to sit? You're not doing nothing.
Exactly. You're not being productive.
You just need a companion to go through life with, because you're not doing nothing that require all this.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Like that's the second this question that the question that was posed on that thing, because I believe this is where the shift messed a lot of guys up. and while I want you to jump in on this first, right? I want you to jump in on this first. You've been quiet for a minute. If we know that like black men in this system just cannot produce the outcomes, whatever. But let's say the system, whatever you believe about the system, however you believe it works, it doesn't, it's against black people, it's for whatever. Black men are not manifesting the outcomes. They're not creating the same outcomes as other groups. So with that being the case, to have a relationship, you would have to have something to offer. Women have asked for, well, you need to come with companionship and emotional intelligence, something that I can use in the relationship, not just like guardianship. You know what I'm saying? Like something that I can relate to, a conversation. We can travel together. We can enjoy each other's company. Why do you feel like men have fought off and do not want to embrace that? Because if they don't have the finance piece for like the guardianship portion of the relationship, why can't we embrace the emotional burden to help meet the woman in that domain? But why do you think why?
Okay, you said a mouthful. Retract. Say that all again.
Why don't we tap more into the emotion to have better relationships if we don't have the
candid and
Wally answering.
I'm sorry.
All right, so Angela basically said this. I got enough. So say it again. Say it again, bro.
Wait, candid and? Oh, candid and.
No. Because you had said candid and.
Why are men rejecting the idea of becoming emotionally intelligent?
I think Wally can answer the question. I think he's running from the question. I'm gonna let
Mandrell.
Why? I'm not running from the question. I did not hear it because Mandrell interrupt.
My apologies, then, gentlemen. I apologize.
I know you said why don't black men invest in the emotional side? Something.
I got an answer for that too.
So they can show up with what the woman wants, because women are wanting more emotionally intelligent partners who can, share in that with them, because it's coming like more of a 50-50 kind of thing. But why are men rejecting that? Like, getting stronger in those areas that are kind of being requested.
Because men are looking at it. Well, I'll say it like this. To those men, they're looking at it and asking themselves, what's the benefit out of it? I mean, in most cases, let's be if I'm just looking at it from a broad spectrum, they can look at it as what's the benefit overall. I mean, you can say, yeah, it's the benefit of you and your wife, just being able to communicate better, being able to, just to stand by one another and all that. But then at the same time, it's like, well, was that really benefiting to them overall from their perspective of their life? Like, I guess from a single side, like from a single perspective, like, was that really benefiting them? They're not looking at that, so they're not going to waste time to invest in that right now or overall, because it's like it's not changing nothing for them in a broad spectrum. In my
facts, not trying to forget. Absolutely, this is actually not a race specific issue. This is a cry as women progress in any society and have more leverage, more autonomy. They're asking for the men to share the different burdens of the relationship, and it's hard for men to shift into the emotional zone comfortably, because a lot of times there's already like a patriarchal model of masculinity that's hard to shake off. Because like Yellow was talking about earlier, society is telling you to look like a man a very specific way, and then the woman's telling you to show up in the relationship a way that feels very foreign to that. So I'm just wondering, I was just trying to get everybody's thoughts on how can we shift? If we're not making the money, society's not set up for us to make the same money, we're being more displaced and disaffected. How then can we show up a more emotionally available partner for the women? Wally says we're not incentivized. I would say the relationship would be the incentive, but I'll let that go.
I mean, I'm not saying like it's not even the fact that just being incentivized. It's the simple fact of, I mean, I say it like this, right? In a sense, right? Let's say we use the good book, right? If a woman came from a man's rib and then we're technically calling her she's acting like femininity, well, technically, didn't that femininity came from a man? So then technically, cannot a man then be able to somehow be able to cooperate in a sense of emotion? But then we tell men to cut that side on. So, I mean,
well, from my perspective,
go ahead, my bad.
Yeah, from my perspective, I mean, that has what Wally said is true for some, but I think for the vast majority of men, again, you're simply not taught to. You're taught to be. They were taught this meathead caveman style of manhood, ideal of manhood, from another meathead, caveman guy who was. No one was taught. Chivalry is not being taught anymore. Okay, that's one. How to treat a woman, how to talk to a woman, that's not being taught anymore. So there you have it. And the only thing guys know now is just bullshit. You know what I'm saying? The woman is to cater to you, but no one's telling the man how to take care of the woman. Yeah, she'll cater to you, but dude, how are you holding up your end? You know what I'm saying? Why should she, like Bree said, why should she submit to you if you're not giving her anything to submit to? You're not doing what you need to do, then, I mean, what the hell?
You may not even need submission. That's what I'm
exactly. I mean, it's just everybody. The thing is, everyone does their part. Everything will turn out fine. But for some people, that's not enough for whatever reason. You know what I mean? And people can't just be satisfied with, things the way they are, even though their situation might be far better than most. Even though what people define as submission may not be there, it may look a lot more like a partnership, but the relationship is never going to be equal. Somebody's doing heavy lifting somewhere, and at times it's gonna seesaw it. Sometimes it's gonna be the man, sometimes it's gonna be the woman. It just depends on what circumstances you two run into. But as long as you have the idea of taking on any challenge together and conquering it together, the resources that we both make are ours. This house we built is ours. This family we built is ours. You won't have any problems, and you have no use for these red pill talking points. You know what I mean? But I think it's just a lack of what people. It's a result of what people are being taught. Come on, Arshawn, you're not both Gen X.
At some point, you're a whole ass adult. I'm gonna need us to get over people teaching you. If you're in relationships and you want an outcome, and you notice what you're doing isn't working, once you're an adult, you have the ability to learn something new. So I'm tired of hearing this. People were taught this, taught that. Okay, but you're a grown ass person at some point.
That's true. That's true.
At some point, I don't want to hear about what your crusty ass uncle taught you. Okay,
I get it, but understand, 99% of people, regardless of gender, are sheep. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, well then maybe they need to stay single and die off. Pro-evolution.
But they will only have 1% of the population.
That's fine.
Breathe.
I'm sorry, but I have to agree.
Wally, hold up. God dang, bro. Hold on. Stop sign. Thank you, Nisho Gun. I appreciate you for coming through, Nisho. Thank you. And Candid, and thank you for coming up. Just wanted to say hello, speak to you real quick.
Hello. Bree, you sounded like me. Okay, I'm supposed to be the one up here who thinks that way.
I'm not trying to get everybody paired off.
Real quick, y'all. Let Wally get that off, and then I want Kendra to jump in. I want to hear what she came up with.
No, I mean, in most cases, I have to agree because simple fact is, well, let's get one thing clear. We all can listen to a narrative, but my thing is now, when you listen to that narrative, let's cut it down and let's see what it goes down to. I mean, that's all it is. Read between the fucking lines. If you ain't gonna do that, then you just played yourself. So.
Okay. Now, I know Kendra was in the chat, and I appreciate it, but I know what you mean. What you mean we don't want to be held accountable, Kendra? That's not true.
What I'm saying here is, I was jokingly saying that black men, they come up with, be accountable to these nuts, nigga. Because many black men feel like just because they're men, that they deserve submission. And it requires a little bit more than that. And I came up here for a little bit of smoke from Mandrell, because not too much smoke, a little bit of friendly smoke, because Mandrell, you're often in these spaces, and when you're here on this platform, like, oh, I know that, Mandrell, I get it, I understand. But when you're in other spaces, and I stopped watching some of those spaces, but when you're in other spaces, it seems like that crowd, what you mentioned with you and your fiance seems like, and I'm not saying a partnership because I know that's a triggering word, But you mentioned it wonderfully. You said it's going to be an unequal. Sometimes it's going to be an imbalance. It's going to go one way sometimes, and in some other areas it's going to go a different way. That completely is exactly what I've tried over and over to explain. But if it came out of my mouth instead of yours, it would be, oh, she's married to a simp, right?
No, it's because you're a woman and you don't know what you're talking about.
But you said the exact same thing that I say. Like, Mandrell, you said exactly, like you described exactly, word, like point for point, like alignment. There's no disagreement between you and I regarding how this works. But the simple fact that you said partnership, I've seen platforms where if a person even mentions partnership, she said partnership, guys, partnership. It's almost like a trigger. But what you explained was a partnership, and I don't understand why that's such a trigger for men. For Black men in particular.
Well, it's really only, you only see it in this space.
I'll tag it after.
And the reason why you hear me talk kind of differently in other spaces is because what I'm doing there, and it's because I'm looking for a way to communicate to them, because I don't know, I think they just don't understand English. But like Arshawn misunderstood me at first until he actually talked to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, he saw me in other spaces, then he and I sat down and talked. Same thing with Bree. But then, to admit it, I was trolling Bree at first, but so that's my fault. But anyway, I'm trying to find a way to talk to them because they seem unable to have a genuine conversation without ignorant shit. And for whatever reason, words trigger them, like you said. And I'm trying to find the words to get my message across to them. It's exhausting, but it's also necessary, and that's why I do it. But it's also not really a partnership. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, before you do anything, like, the wife does have to run what she's gonna do by her husband.
Right, no disagreement.
If for no other reason, just so the guy knows what's going on.
Yes, no disagreement.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, Mandrell, what you said, there is absolutely no disagreement. But the simple fact that you mentioned that there's some times where you're going to lead and sometimes she's going to give you suggestions, and the way that you described it was like, I could not have said it any better. But if it came out of my mouth instead of yours, it would have been...
I know exactly what you're talking about. They do that to me all the time. That's why you don't see me on certain platforms anymore, because when I go to certain platforms, that's all they do. There's times where I've said something and Tuck Williams came right behind me and literally said what I said, verbatim, word for word. And he says, oh, yes, he's preaching. I'm like, wait, I just said that. I literally, and word for word, I just said that. And they do it all the time. And I'm just like, you know what? There's no point in me even being here. So I just
let me get Tuck pregnant. He got money.
Oh my! I know Bree was actually telling me about that because I had the same experience, and it wasn't around the lines of gender. It was around the lines of like that Black nationality. I would say a principle, an idea, and they would come behind me and say the exact same principle, but because it looked that the people looked and used certain words and language, it was accepted, or like the people were already in the pro-Black space, so when they said it, it was accepted. And like every time it was me, it was like, no. But then as soon as the other person said, it was like the very next day, the person came and said everything I said. I'm like, and everybody's like, yes. I'm like, what? I was ready to lose it. But there's something to, we have these group egos. A lot of men, and I fell into it recently. I started the whole show apologizing for it. Sometimes we fall into like a group ego. And I fell into the male group ego, and I was defending men against women. I had a whole hour-long rant. I'm like, you know what? It was a mistake. I can admit that now. I got into an ego that I did not belong in. I'm not all men. I'm just this man. And that's the only person I can take accountability for and the criticism for. But welcome to the stage, Marcus. Man, appreciate you coming up, Playboy.
Yeah. And also, there's nothing against Tuck. I love Tuck Williams. I love to talk money and industry with Tuck. I do actually, Kendon. I actually talk money and industry with Tuck not all the time. I hadn't seen him in a minute, but hadn't talked to him in a minute, but he and I talk shop. Used to talk shop a lot, and yeah, that guy's brilliant.
Well, it's a
but it was just an
communication
example.
issue, though.
Yeah, I think people accept things from certain people. I think it's the messenger, and they don't focus
No,
on the
I
message.
think
They focus on the person who's giving the message.
I think people mess up when they go into other spaces and they don't understand how to simplify their language down.
There you go. That's me.
I think people,
Simplify
everybody
what?
just talks the same. Everybody talks the same, no matter who they're talking to. And I noticed that on different platforms that people don't know. People don't. It's not. It's a skill. It's something you learn. It's how you relate to people. But I think because a lot of people see everybody as the same as themselves, or project some kind of relation onto people because of some sameness that they see often, especially blackness or manhood. People talk to people the same way. But what I've found is when you enter into spaces, you either, if you don't know the jargon of the people you're speaking with, if you enter into a completely alien space and you don't know the jargon of the group, you simplify your language and you say clear with your statements and you keep them simple. And that way the people can follow a very simple statement. But what a lot of people do is they go into spaces and they just talk. And no one knows what the fuck you're talking about because you're using jargon that is not part of the culture of the group.
That's true. And the reason why I communicate like this is because, like, you guys know my military background, what I used to do. And we're used to giving detailed briefings. You sit in those briefings and they give you very, very minute, down to the very minute detail. That way, when it's time for you to go out and do your job, there's no need to talk to anyone. We have defined roles. We don't need to talk to each other. We know what's going on. We know what we need to do. You know what I mean? The talking's over once the briefing's done. No more talking. It's just
but
doing
even
now.
still,
And
that you're all trained in the same jargon and the same culture. So that doesn't work if you go outside of that culture. And you should look at every panel as the same. You should look at every channel and space in that way. You're entering into someone else's space. You don't know the culture unless you're a long time viewer.
I've been around certain people.
Reckless Logic, man. Thank you, Reckless Logic, for coming up. Glad first time on the panel. Appreciate having you.
What's going on? Hey, what's going on, y'all?
What's up?
What's up, man?
Hey.
I was just saying, I've been in some spaces for a long time now, and I still don't understand it. I'm still misunderstood, Bree.
Hey, but man, Jordan, you got a way about you. Reckless. What I saw you were going off on the patriarchy and the gender roles. What did you bring up when you came up? What were you coming up for?
Oh, I've been meaning to come up for the longest, but I was taking a shower. I was over here multitasking. All right, so I'm gonna be honest. Do I sound clear though?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, want to make sure.
Yeah, Reckless Logic. It's been a minute. How you doing?
It's been all right. I was actually kind of glad because Candid actually hit on the thing I was about to come up here and ask you about, because I've been meaning to ask you that for the longest. Because, like, even though I haven't been really on YouTube like that, I do be in the cut and I do be watching. And that was something I wanted to ask you about, but since you already addressed it, I'm just gonna leave that. I'm just gonna leave it alone. But it was the part of, like, when you get here, you speak in a specific way, and it's like, oh, okay, like especially when I first met you, I was like, oh, okay, he's actually very smart, he's very knowledgeable about a lot of things. But then, of course, when you get into other spaces, the panel can be, the IQ can drop like by a lot, a lot of times. Yeah, and I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being honest.
You're being honest. Yes, you are. And it's difficult. It's difficult for me to dumb it down like that. It's an adjustment, and I'm still adjusting to it. And like what Bree said was right. It fits me to a T. And that's why, like, when you see my other platforms, other spaces, I'm trying to meet people where they are. And dumb it down like that it's a struggle for me. But when you talk to me here in spaces like this, I'm very comfortable because I can be myself. I can talk to Bree on her platform. I can be myself 100%. Arshawn, same way.
But I apologize. Did I greet Marcus? Marcus, did I greet you? I'm sorry, man. Did I say hello when you came up?
You said hey to Marcus.
Y'all did. I was just because I'm a little sick, so I was coughing and sneezing. So
my
bad. I was like, wait a minute, why haven't I heard his voice?
Arshawn. I wanted to
I wanted to
shine in real quick because I think it's important that because when I'm on the spaces too, I hear people give out certain vague solutions or vague examples sometimes, and I think that's where people want to get a more detailed explanation about it. Because let's say, for example, you run into a situation like A, B, C, or X, Y, Z, and they want to break it down more to a great detail. So I think maybe that's where the people are coming from. If there's no shot to you, Mandrell, because you know I'm cool with you and I rock with you. I understand where you're coming from. But I think just not everybody's going to understand the same jargon, like Hawaii Bree, I think, was saying earlier. So
Yeah.
I think maybe that way, some people might understand it when you get a more detailed example in another way. So I think that's what they're going to get at. Correct me if I'm wrong, though.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I feel like personally, a lot of people will understand a lot of the things, a lot of conversations when we actually start to take a look within ourselves. Like, and what I mean by that is that understanding all of your intersections and also understanding the topic, but not only that, understanding your privilege. Because the thing about it is that with privileges or whatever, they can create blind spots to social issues, to social injustice issues. And so specifically, if you don't have a certain experience, a lot of times you need to also know when to shut your mouth and listen. And that's the reason why, even as a queer man myself, I was taught to be misogynistic. That's why now I shut the fuck up and I listen to women when they speak. Because now what happens then is that I'm actually taking into account how women feel under a patriarchy that completely oppresses them in ways that doesn't affect me in the same light. So I think once people understand their privilege and know when to actually start listening, then they'll probably get a better understanding. Because yes, I'm also in those spaces as well too. And a lot of times, a lot of men say things along the lines of, we need to protect. But the thing about it, if you're not listening to the women you're talking about protecting, how do you know what to protect them from? Because whenever there's something that happens with sexual assault, you're blaming the woman. Why was you dressing like that? When it comes down to women saying that, Roe v. Wade, you guys want to get rid of it. It's other ways of being able to listen so you can get into the nooks and crevices of issues. That's it.
I like that.
That was a great point. I was going to say on the
was.
protection part, because there's a lot of women who also say, you having a lot of money makes me feel protected because I don't have to live in the hood and I can live in a nice area of town and I can know that I'm safe when you have to leave the house to go to work.
What was that face for, Arshawn?
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. But men don't want to hear all that. They waiting on the robber to bust in your house so they get that one chance to jump out the bed and go to see what the knockdown
collect that insurance money.
That's going to be the one moment that you finally get to be the protector that you've always thought you were going to be. That's true.
I'm giving Bree the same face that Arshawn gave her.
Y'all love it, baby. Y'all waiting for the day somebody shoot or break into y'all house so y'all can prove y'all.
I can't argue.
Instead of putting me in a nice ass neighborhood in the first way. So
I'm gonna have to disagree with that. I'm gonna disagree with that because even in like certain spaces, they even talk about how they don't even approach each other because it can be a dangerous situation. I'm like, weren't y'all talking about y'all being protectors and putting your life on the line? All of a sudden, when it's time for you to put your life on the line, you don't want to do it.
That's why it's kept. That's why it's kept.
But reckless logic, to be fair, though,
nice.
you can't put yourself on the line for everybody, though. It has to be someone worth putting your life for. I'm not just going to teach my son or my daughter, or especially my son, oh yeah, go do your go send your life to doom for someone you don't even know that may not even do anything to contribute or reciprocate that in return. So why would why would we do that?
I'm talking about family wise.
Hey, hold on. Let Marcus go ahead and finish your thought real quick. I gotta do something channel
I was
based.
done. Oh, you good.
I want to thank High Fly Guy Kai, or now Drive By Guy Kai, for the 4th month of the 4 months he's been subscribed. Thank you so much. He said we out here. Just want to say thank you for the resubscription. Because I'm doing a lot, mostly like a YouTube dual split thing. I'm not going to play the video, but thank you. I got you next time when I'm on Twitch alone. I will definitely play the video for you, Brody. But I know Reckless will again jump in and I'll fall back.
Oh yeah, so I wanted to explain what I meant by the patriarchy and the gender roles. Now what I mean by the gender roles is that they don't serve anyone. Like they're very much a mechanical. Of course, at one point in time, it made sense for us to quote unquote follow gender roles, as in the man being the protector and also the woman staying at home, because guess what? Or the man being the provider, because guess what? Women weren't allowed to work. So it made logical sense for the men to go out and work and do all those different things. But I think the issue really comes down to the gender roles is that we also talk about us not being a monolith. Doesn't matter what type of community, that doesn't matter what other community or group, we talk about ourselves not being a monolith, but yet we try to do this one size fits all type of formula that specifically, if we actually start to get into the nooks and crevices of relationships, the nooks and crevices of households, they weren't healthy a lot of the times. Because I'm gonna use me for example. My grandmother, I found out that they followed the whole gender roles thing where she stayed at the house, she took care of the kids, her husband or whatever went out and provided. But the thing about it is that she endured a lot of domestic violence, but however, she decided to stay because of stability, and she would have nowhere to go. So I think that once we get rid of all gender roles, because it also affects men as well, the same way how you guys were talking about how men aren't able to express their emotions and stuff, is because of the simple fact of gender roles, gender norms. They completely quote unquote condition men that you show any type of emotion, you're a bitch, all in all. And the thing about it is that when you're not expressing your emotions in a healthy way, they're going to come out somewhere. And that can be physical abuse, that can be all different types of toxic ways they can actually come out. That's it.
I'm happy that you mentioned that. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Manjo.
Okay. The gender roles thing. Well, the gender roles thing, he's right about that. And but the thing is about what people don't understand about when they saw their example of a stoic, firm man. Yeah, he was that way around you, but he wasn't that way around his woman. Like around his woman, what I mean? In my opinion, this is the way it's supposed to go. Like, right? If you're with your woman, that's the person that if there's no one else on the planet that you can be vulnerable with, it should be her.
Man, Joe's starting to talk to my soul right now. Jesus.
It should
but he lying though.
No, I'm not lying. That's my opinion, Bree. It should be your woman. Okay. I'm not saying it happens like that.
But they might throw it in your face.
I'm not saying that that's the way it always works out. I'm not saying that's everyone's situation. By no means. In my opinion, that's the way it should be between you and your mate. That's your mate, your life. The person you're gonna spend the rest of your life with. So why not? That's the person who's supposed to know all your secrets. She knows where all the bodies are buried. You're supposed to put the ultimate trust in that chick. Otherwise, in my opinion, why are you getting married? It's a business deal or something like that, which is, I don't think you should get married for that reason. This is just me again being 100%. This is 100% my idea. Bree.
I ain't saying that.
I know you're making faces. I know. I see your faces. But I'm just being honest with you. That's the way I see it. That's where I think it should be. Like, if I'm gonna be, I am stoic, and I am a shrewd businessman. But
Manjo, you are a lot of things, but stoic would not be one of them.
Oh, you ain't met me in person. But
So you gonna act like your friends on YouTube then say that men can't be vulnerable with women, and that how most men is you're not able to be vulnerable with your woman, and you absolutely should not. You trying to tell me that's not an accepted belief?
That is an accepted belief with them. I don't believe it though. I don't believe that that's the way it should
My
be.
men though, most men feel like you.
I agree with you. Most men see it that way because it's stupid. Like you're gonna have to our logic said, you're gonna have to let that out somehow. That this is me speaking as a person who's dealt with, PTSD. Your body's gonna get rid of all that stress one way or the other. Either you're gonna deal with it or it's gonna deal with you. It's gotta happen one of those two ways. You can only take so much, That's why you see presidents go into office with black hair. They come out and he only spent 8 years in there, full head of gray hair. You know what I'm saying? So
it's also why women die. When women get married, we die sooner than single women do.
Yeah,
Why
and
is
Kai's
this?
pointing out that the studies show that women that are single
That's
are
facts.
happier than women in traditional roles because
That's
Women
Now,
tend
I'm
to
gonna
live
say
a shorter life when they're
something
Same as
married
men
compared
that are
to
single
men.
as well.
men that are married.
No,
I'm gonna say
single
something
men die
controversial.
quicker. That is not true.
Yeah, single men die quicker.
The single men die quicker. So when
But I
women
really
get married,
think
when
it's
men are like,
I'll
"Oh,
fight that.
I'm giving you provision. I'm giving you this, nigga. I'm giving you life. Like literally, you're cutting off my motherfucking life."
You give me your
Rashawn, what
life?
you
I'm gonna
said?
say.
I'm saying.
Now I'm about to say, like to this point though, I believe it's true. I believe men and Yellow. I know Yellow will agree with me. This men understand what we're looking for in a relationship. So when we get into it, we come with the same emotional unavailability up front, and we carry that throughout. We unload all the burden onto you all. But because y'all women are in a delusion of what you think the relationship is going to be,
what
you take on this burden, and then y'all it saps y'all's life because like Tia Mowry right now, it's like I didn't know it was going to be this hard. I didn't know they were going to expect
Man, I
so
just
much.
graduated. I got a PhD.
Exactly. So I'm like, there's a delusion that y'all carry about how the relationships are going to go, and then when y'all get married, you're not satisfied because there's actual labor required that you thought he was going to help you with. He didn't help you with it before the marriage, but you thought somehow he was just going to pick up some of this emotional labor. Nah.
So wait a second, and that doesn't work both ways. You men don't have a delusion of what you think you're going to get a wife and what she's going to do and how she's going to act and how she's going to keep the house clean and do all these different things.
Mandra, that's hypocritical, Mandra, coming from you.
No
'cause you keep saying
emotional
that.
availability at all.
But all you gotta do is go home and pay this mortgage, right? All you gotta do is make you like this rent being paid, right? As if that's enough.
That's different. That's an expectation because we'll communicate it up front. See, the delusion remains in y'all's heads, and y'all don't communicate.
The delusion remains in your head also.
What? We don't communicate.
Well,
that?
we all know.
Y'all don't.
Wait,
Y'all don't
you know,
communicate.
communication is 50-50.
Y'all don't
We
communicate.
both know. We both.
But
The important for me.
Never mind.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like, because this is the thing. Because earlier, I think Reckless Logic said it right about men making sure we can deal with our emotions better and stuff and be able to communicate, right? But if all those men that I remember Kawhi Bree said, most men or men in general that'll say, we want to you said the point of what your example was, most men got to be stoic or whatever, and then like they got to be like the whole, is that what you were saying, Kawhi Bree, earlier?
I think I was saying that y'all can't be vulnerable with y'all.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, vulnerable. But if you're noticing or hearing the same pattern, then maybe most men already experienced it where they were vulnerable, and maybe the woman or significant family member threw it in their face, because it doesn't always have to be a passionate relationship. It could be your relationship with your parents. It could be your relationship with somebody that you was raising you, and they shunned you for being vulnerable. So when you got older, you couldn't really say that out loud. Maybe you did express it, and it still got thrown in your face. Because a lot of us, man, we can say it up front, because a lot of women in general say they want honesty, they want the real man, they want to keep him real. But it's tough because what is keeping it real? Is it how we come off across? Is it harsh? Is it just because it's the truth? Like, well, please explain so we can maybe understand better, to listen and communicate better.
Hey, real quick, I gotta stop this because we are all. I'm not sure we got into the gender ego all of a sudden. I'm not sure how, but we got into the gender ego because right now, Shy Cutie, thank you for coming to the stream. Shy Cutie says y'all don't communicate. Y'all be having a conversation with yourself and thinking you said it but didn't. I listened to a whole wife life advice stream where Kawhi Bree and Shy Cutie said that that's what women do. Y'all be having the whole conversations in y'all's head and don't communicate it. Y'all also, as panelists, everybody up here has known for at least the last 3 years, men are consistently saying what they want vocally, but what they want, y'all won't accept. Like the whole, it's stupid what they're saying, what they want, it's stupid, but y'all won't accept it. Like they want the sex, they want the silence, they want the sandwich, they want the submission.
Let me come after you.
That's not what y'all want.
No,
that is not what you want.
Yeah, they forgot.
You want half our fucking checks.
I'm
You
so
want to go
sorry.
50-50. You want to be a man.
Household
I'm sorry. If men think they're gonna put women back into cages, that's not happening.
But what I'm saying is everybody said we don't communicate. We do. we communicate stupid ideas. And then this is what the delusion of women is. Oh, he's just playing. He couldn't really believe that. Because I've had the experience where I tell a woman, I am just a friend. I will never be more than that. We'll never go anywhere with it. Oh, he's just playing. Da, 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 da. Women reformat reality. We call it the hex on the Twitch side. Kawaii Bree knows that. And all of a sudden, right now, y'all trying to hex me. Like, this is not the conversation that everybody has to understand. Men say exactly what they want, no matter how stupid it is. And then women reformat it. But I'm going to give him this. And then y'all make us, we have to be happy with it, which is why Yella starts raging. Because you say we got to be happy with stuff, but y'all, we can't put the same onus on y'all. This is what really happens between the dynamics. And everybody all of a sudden is going to act like that don't happen. It does. Generally speaking, not everybody, some, not all. But that's where the communication breaks down. The men say what they want. It's stupid. It's superficial, but they say what they want.
It's inadequate.
Oh, it's stupid. Well, that's why it's stupid. It's not sustainable. That's what makes
That's why I tell women to watch what men do. Don't listen to what the fuck y'all have to say, but to really pay attention to what y'all do.
There you go.
I've spoken about this over and over. Manjo's probably heard this a million times from me talking about character, but I've been told by my husband when we first started dating, he sat me down and was like, I don't think I can date you right now because, you know, I was heartbroken about some old ugly ass bitch he was dating however long ago. And he was like, you know, I think you're a really nice person, but I don't think I can date you right now. You seem to be really nice and blah, 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 blah. Right? So I said, all right. And I left. This man ain't stopped showing up at my fucking house. He ain't stopped. You know, his action says something different. He told me, I don't think I can date you. But guess what happened? And I'm going to get too much into this. But another prospect came into the picture and he lost his shit. He lost his entire shit. That was many years ago. We ain't gonna get too much into that because I can't tell him a businessman, Joe.
Well, you know what he did? I can tell you what that was, though. I can tell you exactly what that was. It was, the thing is, he was, when he told you that, he was expressing you his insecurities. He was being vulnerable with you. You know what I mean? That's how he felt, but keep in mind, that's how he felt in the moment. It struck him, but then he kept coming around because he liked you and he wanted to date you. So he kept coming around to you, kept spending time with you. You know what I'm saying? And I've said that on many panels before. Watch what people do. Goddamn what they say. You know what I'm saying? I'm watching how you move. You know, so yeah, he was being vulnerable with you. And that's how he felt at that time. Because I mean, he felt not intimidated, but unworthy, we'll say. Because guys do have that sensation from time, you know. And then when the new prospect came in, oh, he's in fight mode now. Fuck that. No, you're not.
Ghetto.
Yep, that's what it is.
I gotta do my Kendra G. Hey, guys, sit still, baby. Gotta sit still, baby. I'm high flying guy. Hey, Kai. I'm through, man. Thank you.
Well, that's when that dog came out.
Yeah, y'all can hear me.
Thanks for the resubscription, bro. Y'all can hear you. Sound good, bro.
All right. What's about? I'm phone guy Kai today.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah,
Wi-Fi guy Kai today. Wi-Fi.
I'm Wi-Fi guy Kai.
Yeah, Wi-Fi.
Yeah, real quick, Kai. Go ahead and I'm gonna let Wally jump in real quick, and then I want you to introduce your thoughts. Wally, go ahead.
Oh, for sure.
I can let you guys go first, but no, because I'm going back to the logic I said earlier about the gender roles influencing, like the fact that men can express themselves. I'm gonna take it from this route because for me, I say I disagree. Because my thing is, gender roles is just what? It's just a flat line guideline. It's not the one that's influencing anything. It's the people that are influencing. And if the people tell you, hey, this is what it is and this is how it goes, well, my thing is, that's up to you. You're going to challenge that or you're going to fall in line. If you followed it, then that's on you. If you didn't, then again, you got to stand on your grounds. So at the end of the day, that's what all of us are all doing. We're either falling in line or we motherfucking taking a different route and motherfucking seeing what else happens. So I don't blame general. I just blame the idea.
Got you. All right. What you got, Wally? I know you said you and your girl was having a conversation about some of the same stuff. Kai, what I say?
Yeah.
Wally.
Quit nerd policing me. No, I'm joking.
It's funny because we're gonna do it previously on, and previously on my last episode that I ran on my show, I had Bree on, and it was me and my girl's conversation was a jumping point from me and Bree's conversation, which she said waiting for like 10 years for marriage or however long was disrespectful. You know what I mean? Based on financial things. So we started jumping off of that and basically started talking about how statistically marriage is disadvantageous for women in terms of, like we said, the happiness factor, incomes, and a longevity of life are three traceable factors that we can look at that have been studied over the course of time. Now, you could always say, yes, those studies are incorrect or correct or whatever the case may be. You're more than willing to do your own research, but we looked at about like 5 or 6 of them that all pointed towards the same thing. That was one thing we noticed. Atypical gender roles do work to a certain extent, but I think as we progress further into a more fluid type of world that we live in, more options are available for people in order to do different things. And that's a good thing. I think what it is now is there's a wave of quote unquote traditionalists versus non-traditionalists that are clashing with the right way to live life. And the truth is, man, there's so many ways to live life. You know what I mean? And everybody's got to take a step back for a second and be like, you know what? I don't need someone else to conform to my way of thinking. And I don't need to be angry if they don't, in my personal view. That's what I think.
100% agree on that. 100% agree. I don't understand why people feel like it has to be one way. Like it has to be the Christian way. It has to be the monogamous way. It has to be the polygamous way. It has to be this way. Like I just don't understand. Like, they say what you eat don't make me shit. What happens in your house has nothing to do with what goes on in my house. And I can respect what goes on in your house, but it ain't like how I run my house. And the two can coexist in peace. So I 100%, that was a great point.
Yeah, especially if those traditional roles for the traditionalists, they're not serving you. You'll hear people sometimes in the same conversation say it's so hard to make enough. It's hard to live on one income. It's hard to do this. And it's like, well, that structure is obviously not serving you. So why are you trying so hard to hold on to it? If it's not even serving you, if it's putting too much pressure on you anyway, then let it go. But you got to let it go. You can't be like, well, I'm going to let it go here. But then when we get over here, and of course you can come to a fluid mixture, like whatever. There's not a one way, but it's just funny to me. Like when it comes to the financial, it's like, well, traditional is not possible. But then outside of financial, once you get home and we start having kids, this is traditional though. Like what the fuck is that? And often that's not agreed upon thing. So that's my weird thing. It's just like, why? If it's not serving you, let it go. But let it go though. Truly find a middle ground. Truly find what works for y'all.
And the thing is with this whole traditional thing is you do the best you can with that. People have to understand, like guys have to get out of their ego. And I don't know if you guys have paid attention, but I think ever since I first came to YouTube, I've been saying that ego is what gets guys in trouble. Pride is healthy. Pride is very healthy. Ego does nothing but break shit down. You know what I mean? That's when you get into trouble. Guys want the traditional roles and they want to be the man of the house and things like that. But when they're not making, if the woman's making $70,000 a year, but he's only making 50 or 60, that chips away his ego because he's not making more money than her. And he's unable to, to afford a stay-at-home wife. You know what I mean? It does chip away his ego and hurts it in most guys' cases. When it comes to stuff that one day, I'm
about to say, and that's especially true in the black sphere of things.
Yes, it is.
Why?
Absolutely.
I want to know why. Why does it chip at your ego because a woman makes a little bit more?
Because candidate is for those guys, it's ego and insecurity. They think that it's a underneath, subterranean. subcutaneous layer of fear there that the woman's going to look down on him. And I changed it. Subcutaneous, but there's an underlying layer of fear that the woman's going to look down on him or see him as less than a man if she's making more money than he is, as opposed to looking at what he brings to that household as a collective. You don't have to make as much money as a woman as long as you can give better direction. Like you may be a whiz at financial literacy. She may just be able to make a lot of money, but have no clue what to do with it or how to manage it properly or as well as you do. However, if you tell her how to get dividends coming in, if you tell, you know what I'm saying? You tell her what stocks to invest in, what to do with that money, how to manage it, how to max out your 401k or Roth 401k, which one is better? You know what I mean? You're bringing far more value to that household than she is just by bringing in money. You're creating wealth.
I got a question on that. Is that fear warranted though?
Well, it depends on the type of woman you married, isn't it? You know what I mean? That's really chiefly what it comes down to. You can't fall for the pretty. I mean, pretty should be a bonus when men are choosing to mate. That should be a happy bonus. But that should not be one of the cheap. I know how we are. I'm a man too. We're gonna see a beautiful woman and we're gonna be like, yeah, I want that. However, when that thing starts talking, and there's nothing between those ears, walk away.
Well, I meant to clarify on the financial tip. And Wally, I know you got a point. My bad, bro. I just want to ask this question.
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I want to clarify on the financial tip for men who make less than their partners and not being able to basically like be cool with that, where the ego comes in. I'm asking, is there societally / dealing with the opposite gender, is that warranted for that fear to be there? Do you?
Is it warranted?
Then yes. If you're dealing with a woman that's going to make you feel like you're less than a man, then absolutely the fear is completely warranted, because she's like, you are the man regardless. So I don't know why that's even something to discuss.
Well,
like,
I'm sorry.
You're still the man, right? So if the woman is making you feel bad, right? But at the end of the day, listen, I'm not telling you make $20,000, $30,000 and feel like the man and she's making 80 and 90, right? I'm saying, like, obviously within reason, right? But if the difference is that she's making 100 and you're making 80, like, I don't think that $20,000 should skew you in such a negative direction that you feel like less of a man because of $20,000 of a difference.
Yeah, but
you're still the man.
My answer to his question is, in my opinion, yes, it is warranted, and it's because society has been engineered that way.
Right. There we go.
Look at daytime TV. All of daytime TV is marketed to women. 99.999% of products on the market.
Why?
I am. I'm just giving examples. 99.9% of products, all products, are marketed towards women. Things like getting a better education, getting a better job, making more money has been marketed towards women, and they followed the instructions. They have gone out and gotten their education. They have gone out and gotten higher paying jobs. But there's this also this lesson of individuality and maintaining your individuality that's been skewed. And so now when people in general, both genders, we no longer look at each other as, when we partner up like that, we don't look at each other as a team. We don't look at each other as a couple or a husband and wife. So whatever money she brings to the table is her money. Whatever you bring, she thinks, okay, I make more money than you anyway. I don't need you. That whole attitude. And the scary part is, Candidae, is that you don't really know. You don't really know if she's ever going to play that card. You don't actually know. And that's where that fear comes from.
I also don't think you really find out till you. Oh my bad.
Marcus, I want Reckless Logic to jump in. So Marcus, you jump in and then Reckless Logic, and then we're gonna go around with like final thoughts.
Okay, my bad.
Nah, Marcus, that was you. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I don't think you really find out in the situation when you live with somebody. Like, you can be dating somebody for like 6 months or something, but until you actually start living with them or something, like sharing a home, maybe sharing the bills or whatever, and then you find out the schedules, like I just don't think you see until you actually live with that person. So I think that's part of the actual vetting process. So for me, if my woman were to make more than me, I personally that's just me. I wouldn't care. But like to Candid Ann's point, it depends until she starts showing her character, because any one of us can make so much money and the ego can get to one of us. And it could boast us in a certain way, and it could be like, oh, you know, I make 150K, I'm, you know, 6 foot, 6 figures, 6-pack abs, you know.
Don't forget the 6 inches, baby. You know.
Oh man. Oh, take it easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so like, yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. That's it.
And one last point, if I may, Arshawn. Like, okay, they make this. We see this in this space all the time. These spaces all the time where you have a lot of women who agree with that. He has to make 6 figures, thus and so. As opposed to looking at it, okay, let's make it a goal. If the two of us can make 6 figures as a collective together, we're good. Because you are. You know what I mean? 6 figures for a household, you're good. Manage it properly. You can still go trips. If you manage your money, if you manage your money the right way, if you invest the right way.
I'm actually glad you said that.
Huh?
That's like a lot of these problems, though, is the transmission of information. Like a lot of what we're doing, they're trying to build safeguards against our lack of knowledge. So I need to make so much money. My household needs to have so much money that if something mess up, because I'm going to mess up. We're not financially savvy. We're obviously not sexually responsible and savvy. We lack savvy in so many ways that we try to overcorrect, like in ways that make us feel secure, that don't necessarily make us secure. So, like you're saying with the money part, we'll lean to, well, you need to make this much money, but that's because we don't know how to use our money. So I need to make enough that I can still blow some money every now and then and be impulsive, but I'm not set back. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to hear what Reckless. Reckless been quiet for a minute.
My answer is always going to be the same. Like, to be completely honest, like I'm gonna keep saying it because I never know who the hell gonna be joining these lives at what time. We have to demolish all that shit. Like, it doesn't make any sense anymore. And plus on top of it, I think we're actually entering a new era. At one point in time, we were into the divine masculine, but now, okay, it's something that me and Conscious always like to say. If the pendulum swings left, it has to swing right to be able to correct what happened on the left. Since we were living in a time where men would dominate the world, men were always in control, and men were the ones that held power. Doesn't matter what ethnicity or whatever. Now we're getting into an era to now we're starting to see the flip side of the coin to be able to balance out the toxicity that may have been on the left, but now we're going to probably experience a little bit of toxicity on the right. But however, eventually it will get to the middle, and then when it gets to the middle, that's when everything's going to balance its way out. But honestly, I think one of the issues, there's a plethora of issues that this shit comes from, is because, let's be very clear, not only do men believe in gender roles, women do too. So with all of that being said, when a lot of times us as men, we connect our manhood to our money, and that is the signal that I would say like a little bit of the signal that we give women, then yeah, that's going to be a bit of the expectation. But now, since we're starting to get into a new era, that's why we're starting to go through a lot of ego deaths and also go through a lot of reevaluation of ideas. That's it.
Nah, I really like that. I mean, that brings up, there's so many parts to this. Because I know when everybody else was talking before, I had this thought, but it left me. But like now that the shift of education is leading to a shift of money into the women's domain. And men were already like, I know they use that word simping. Men were already like, I guess, sending money towards the women's side. So you have the equity on money, plus men shifting money over to the women because we're always chasing them. So you got that whole shift economically, educationally. So they're in the workforce and the profession. But then even sexually, I was learning that there's like a whole, like they call it the orgasm gap. Like even among heterosexual couples, only like 11%. It was a very small percentage of women were being sexually satisfied and reaching orgasm during sex with their partners. So it was even a greater degree of satisfaction among homosexual or LGBT partners as opposed to heterosexual couples. So like, so even so, if you've got the money yourself and you're not being satisfied sexually, and men are refusing to be emotionally aware because we're not ready to shift roles and we're going to get shamed. Well, then what's left for a woman to value of you inside of her relationship? So, I mean, that's a problem I think men are going to have to wrestle with. What do I bring to the table? for a modern today's woman, and there's not a lot unless you're going to bring cooperation because they've got everything they need and they live longer without you. They're learning, like even with the marriage rates across the world in a lot of places are dropping because they don't have to marry you for resources, and they're finding out they're happier and doing more on their own without you. They're living longer without you. So the shift is from marriage to cohabitation. And we want to say it's because men don't want to marry, but women are starting to wise up. They're starting to learn. There's a knowledge shift. There's a societal shift. So I like seeing it. I want to get everybody's final thoughts, and we're going to start from the bottom to the top. First, on December 1st, I definitely want to, I'm having Candid Ann on. I want to see if Mandrell can come, Bree can come, Yella. I want to have that group. But Candid Ann, if you would not mind, just give us your final thoughts for a few minutes, expound on whatever. And then,
yeah, this has been a great conversation, you guys. I wasn't expecting to come up at all, but the conversation got so great that I was like, let me get up off of my cell phone and get onto the desktop and join the conversation. I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of great points that have been made. And I think that as we think of survival of the fittest, we're no longer Neanderthals. We're no longer like, I'm the man, and these traditional roles are not as traditional as they once were, where a man is leaving the cave and bring meat home. Like, it's shifting. And I know people don't, when they think about modern people, we're all modern to some extent. Like, traditional is now I'm gonna mess this up, but like, what is traditional now was probably modern at some other point. Like, we are changing, and so we have to recognize that as a group, our roles as men, there's still some roles, like I expect a man to be a man. Like there is still an expectation for me that I want a masculine man, right? However, what that entails today might not be the same thing that it entailed 100 years ago, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're any less of a man. Because asking for more communication doesn't mean that you're less of a man. All this stuff about being stoic.
I keep hearing the Sir Hale chime.
Sir Hale chime?
You don't keep hearing that? That bring, bring.
Is that my glasses?
No. I thought it was Urshan doing it.
No.
Exactly.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but somebody kept playing like this little magic chime.
I think it might be Bree.
You playing games, Bree?
No, my
her daughter's there.
Yeah,
oh, okay. Well, it's not her. It might be Candid Ann playing a game.
No, I ain't playing no games. Damn, one time I fuck up one time. No,
is it a combo in Candy Crush?
Yeah, it's something in her background because she light up every time. But
really,
yeah,
I'm not doing anything whatsoever. I think it.
Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. It's okay. But long story short, to get to the point, really, I just feel like, we have to recognize that as both men and as both women, I truly believe that communication is huge, right? And we have to pay attention to what is being said and what's not being said, how people are conducting themselves. And we have to be shrewd in the way that we evaluate people and how they conduct themselves when we're thinking about mating. Right. So if a person is telling you, yeah, I just want to hook up, and they're acting completely different from what they're telling you, pay attention to that. So that's basically it. So I'm happy that these conversations can be had in a calm, respectful manner, but still in a challenging manner also. And I think there's still a lot we can learn from one another. Our logic, or I don't know, reckless, is that the first?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, he mentioned something earlier that I wanted to talk about. Just quickly, is to say that you were talking about the importance of paying attention to women, but I think there's a lot to be had for women to pay attention to men also, right? Women really need to recognize that when a man gives you protection, that shit is a lot of weight on a man's shoulder. Like, that shit is not just some easy shit that a man decides to do, and that needs to be respected. When a man decides to give you his last name, that needs to be respected. Conduct yourself in an honorable manner. So I think there's a lot to be said on both sides when we talk about like respecting and communicating. There's a lot to be said there, So we got to reach across the table, both as black men and as black women, to respect each other's roles and to understand where I come from as a woman. I'm giving up a lot here. My body's going through a lot to give you these children, to give up this job, to give up my checking account, as we talked about. I'm going through a lot to give up my name. That I'm going through a lot. It doesn't mean that I don't love you any less. It doesn't mean that I'm not honored to have your last name, but it's still a death to me. Recognize that. You're right. And I do recognize and respect the fact that this protection that you're giving me, it comes with a lot on your shoulders. And I respect that and I love you for it and I thank you for it, right? So we got to understand each other in that sense. That's all. All right. Thanks for having me on the panel.
Appreciate you, candidate.
Yeah.
That is candidate. I don't know what it is, but it's I always hear from Sir Hale.
Right.
I always hear like, oh, how did Sir Hale snuck up in
sound.
here?
What is
but
it?
I know you said it's like that's some kind of that's a magic sound. I don't know how you're not hearing it, but it's definitely coming.
It's coming through my side, some kind of magic sound. I'm just magical, you guys.
Magical, definitely. The magic of black women, for sure. But Kawaii Bree says she has to get ready to dip up out. So go ahead and give us your closing thoughts. I definitely appreciate you for having the conversation with me. I do think it was interesting in the beginning. There was a couple questions I forgot to ask. I did not go through my whole thing, but I think we still had a good, productive conversation. But go ahead and please give the closing. I'm giving you a big face.
It was cool having everybody up here to have the chat. There's a lot of interesting things. I've been kind of in a more listening mood lately, just kind of taking in a lot of information. So y'all know when it come back out, it's going to be raggedy. And that's pretty much, I just enjoy hearing a different standpoint. But ultimately, maybe because I've been, gaming a lot lately and, grinding and competitive Overwatch. But, I just want everybody to get good. If you don't like where you are in life, just take a second to look at what can you improve. And that's not to say that's your fault. There's not to say that other people don't have something to do with it. There's not to say there are powers above you and against you that are out of your control, that are actively pushing back against that. But I just want people, if you're not happy with something in your life, or if you keep trying the same thing and it's not working, just kind of take a second and consider that it could be you, and just kind of find whatever information you need to bridge that gap. And I would like to see that more from men and women. So that's my final thought.
I appreciate you, Bree. Bam. Well, I appreciate you again. So I hope you have a wonderful evening. I will see you next time. Goodbye. Keep it cute, keep it classy, all that good stuff. All right. Hi, Fly Guy Kai. I know you got shipped to the bottom, man. Go ahead and give us your closing thoughts, man. I know this is a domain you and your girl be on all the time, man. So I'm going to give you the big face since you got the camera on, man. So give us your closing thoughts, man. Give us a couple minutes. Rock out.
Big face activated. It's your boy, the highest and flyest, the guys, Mr. High Fly Guy Kai himself. And once again, shout out to Rashawn and everybody else who was on the panel for an excellent conversation. I know I came a little late, but my advice to everybody is don't try to make two halves a whole. Be whole and make two. You know what I mean? And understand that as you move throughout life, that self-growth and not indulgence, but self-growth and education is so important to understanding who you can be as a partner, to be a better partner to someone. Find someone that truly elevates you. Find someone that you can elevate as well. Understand that it's a two-way street. It's a partnership. It's a tag team. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, don't settle for anything less than that. Relationships can be beautiful if you give them the opportunity to be so. But if you coming through with all the extra baggage and you coming through with all the extra pain and financial worries and whatever the case may be, then you have to take accountability and look in the mirror and be like, I'm the one that's holding me back. You can talk all this crap about the patriarchy. You talk all this crap about women doing this and feminism doing that. But at the end of the day, there's only one person that you got to face in the mirror, and that's the person that's right there. And ultimately, if you can't handle that, you can't handle anybody else. I promise you that much. That's it for me, baby. I ain't gonna keep it long. Keep it short.
Appreciate you, High Fly Guy Kai. Good looking out, man. But let's get Wally in here, man. Wally, man, go ahead and jump in, man, with your final thoughts, man. I know you got the wealth talk, man. Give us some talk, some closing talk.
I'm gonna say this. Going back to my early statement, this is the one thing that men. This is where men are a little bit more confused. I say it like this: if men understand what men go through, why would you shun a man for being quote unquote emotional? If you truly understand what we go through, why would you shun that? And that's the thing, you know, we need to stop, you know, falling in the pit of these narratives and just understand, like, look, when someone says something, say it, but then understand it's mostly 9 times out of 10 is not what it's all for. Like, it's not all 10 toes down. Because my thing is, you can't tell me, oh, well, hey, we all understand each other's position, we all understand what we're going through and everything like that, but then you shun me if I act out of pocket because I'm acting within emotions or whatever, throwing myself out to the world. This is why I sit here and say gender roles don't really control men, as men can other policing other men within their emotions. And that's that bullshit for me.
Okay, Wally. Marcus, Mr. Marcus, man, go ahead. Now, I know you love to plug every channel. Go ahead, man. Plug every channel you visit, man. But give us your closing thoughts and everything else you want to shout out on the way out.
No, man, I just appreciate you just letting me up in the panel. I wanted to swing by and show you some of my support. I know I missed a couple of your lives, I think, last time. I was in the chat, but, you know, just shout out to Arshawn, shout out to Critically Drinking, because, you know, Mr. a man here that's been critically sober for over 6 years. You know, shout out to Mandrell. You can catch Mandrell Wednesdays on the show Unapologetic with Mandrell and Shushu on BMU at 8:30 Central Standard Time. Also, shout out to Wally World Top Productions. You make sure you hit the link, like, share, subscribe to not only Critically Drinking, but World Talk Productions. Also, shout out to my boy Jay Takashi out there. He holding it down. He just got back. He was flagged before. They suspended him. Now he's out of YouTube jail. And they got him back on track. He was on Twitch with y'all, but he's back. All because he was supposedly inciting violence by playing some action clips. That's crazy.
Who was that, Marcus?
Jay Takashi, he was suspended for like a week because he was playing some action clips, action scenes. And I guess YouTube had mailed him a letter saying he was inciting violence. That's why he was flagged.
Oh yeah, they yelled at me too, man. They called me a bully.
I know why. I know why they yelled at you, Mandrill. I know why. Because I know why. You remember?
Yeah, I know why too. They called me a bully. Man, the guy has $147 million in the bank, and I'm the bully.
Yeah, yeah.
We're punching down, Mandrill.
Good grief.
Yeah, but you know, just to you know, these talks were cool. Shout out to Kawhi Bree, Canada, and Mandrill, Reckless Logic, High Fly Guy Kai, and everybody else that was in the chat, man. You know, I respect y'all, and you know, I understand we have difference of opinions, perspectives, but like Kennedy said, we can still have a great conversation, not have to be at each other's throats, and still have a genuine pushback at the end of the day, and move on with our lives, you know. And that's it. You know, shout out to y'all, and have a good night.
And thanks for coming up, Marcus, man. Thanks for coming up, Wally. Mandrell, man, go ahead and give us your final words, man. Let us know what you up to, Playboy.
Final thoughts, people. Get over yourself. Okay? Get over yourself. You're not that important. I promise you, you're not. You're really not. Understand that whoever you decide to mate with, they have just as much importance to that relationship as you do. You may do more of the heavy lifting, but they have and I'm doing air quotes here, role too. But you have to let them. You have to show gratitude. Because how would you feel if you're doing all the stuff you're doing, but that person never shows any gratitude, nor give you any recognition for it? So how do you think the other person feels? And if that person isn't that important to you, then leave them alone. Break it off. Send them to spend the rest of their life doing whatever it is they do. And you move on with your life and be miserable and alone. You know, stop trying to compete with the other person. It's not a competition. It's not. It's a collaboration. So, and stop thinking of your resources as yours and hers as hers, or vice versa. I mean, however your relationship dynamics work, you know what I mean? Regardless of what gender you're with. Okay, stop looking at the other person's resources theirs and yours is yours. It doesn't work that way in a lifelong partnership. And there's that word, partnership. That person is your partner. That person is your partner, your best friend, your wife, your husband, your counselor, your therapist, all that. And if you're not a person who can give that back to them, you're not ready for a relationship. Not a long-term serious one anyway. Not a marriage. That's just my opinion though. Because in a marriage, you have to be everything that you need to be when you need to be it. So you have to prepare for everything. And it's never too late to start, but just get started. And that's it.
It's so funny hearing all that wisdom come out of Darth Vader. Like that avatar just kills me when I'm hearing you say that. Yeah, man. Okay, Bree. You're right. You're right.
Bree, hell no, I'm not your therapist.
Not your mama, not your therapist, not your doctor. I hear
you're not the mama. You're not his mama, but you know, like I said, guys who walk around like your granny, walk around stoic and stern and all this stuff. But then when he's with his woman, that's when that's when he lets out all the steam. He tells her, and she does the same for him. She tells him what's bothering her and all that.
Yeah, real quick, man. I definitely want to appreciate Reckless Logic on his first time up here. Really, thank you for coming up here, Reckless. Do you do live streams? I don't get the notification.
Mm-hmm. I caught him one time, Marshawn. I said hello to him in the chat. He said nothing back. He kept going on his.
No, I did. No, I did. But I think by the time I said something, I actually caught it. Is because I guess you had already left, and I was like, "Damn, I missed them."
Yeah, you and the other one too. Now he goes on at odd times. I've seen him start alive at 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Because me and Conscious, like we're like peanut butter and jelly. We always together. So if you don't see me go live, 9 times out of 10 I'm live over there. But I know I was missing for a while because I had to take care of some personal stuff with family. But now I'm kind of out of that. So. Whew.
Yeah, I saw Conscious. I see his joint pop up live, and I go in there, I check him out, see what he's up to, see what he's talking about. He be going in, man. He's a trip. Both of you are. Both of you have me rolling, but y'all content.
Oh Lord! Actually, but I'm gonna give my final thoughts and stuff. Yeah. So when I did see a comment that Yellow Pill. I don't know if he's still in here. That he actually asked me. He was like, "When were black men those men?" And his thing is that, this is when it comes down to understanding your privileges in certain aspects. Now we understand in the context of outside the melanated people, black people, everybody's privileges come and go depending upon where you are. But in the context of within the black community, that's where black men would typically have their privilege, traditionally, in a sense. But like I said, things are starting to get to more of the flip side of the coin now. Someone did mention a thing about communication, and they also followed up with comprehension. Because I always talk about all the time, you can communicate all the time, but however, if I'm speaking Spanish, but you understand English, we're not going to get anywhere. And I think one of the reasons why you'll be able to have a deeper understanding and having empathy and actually understanding to the core what your partner may be saying is when you actually humble yourself and understand your privileges. And I like to I like to use the examples and keep it on me for the most part, so it doesn't feel like a personal attack. When I was like saying little things and involving myself in systems like on a explicit or subtle level, when I actually humbled myself, understood that I am a man, I'm not affected by patriarchy the same way women are, so I need to shut up and listen. And then I was able to listen to the true concerns of women and then take that into account and be able to adjust and use my privilege in a good way, in a sense. I do believe that we're going to come to a time, well, actually right now, this time is for us as men, queer or straight, to reevaluate what healthy masculinity is. One of the reasons why men kind of go so hard on men in particular, specifically, is because the simple fact of, yes, straight men are the ones that usually come up and kind of combat us, but gay men think this same shit as well too. And the same way I get on men, straight men, the same way I get on gay men. There's been plenty of times I've got on gay men by being misogynistic and trying to think and trying to uphold systems that don't even, it doesn't serve us as well too. And I do believe that the reason why we cannot come together is because we have, we believe in certain systems. Because the thing about it is that as soon as there's a woman in the front, the misogyny comes out. Then with the gay person in the front, the homophobia, transphobia, and all this other stuff. Once we let all of that shit go, we'll be able to accept people for who they are and love them to their core. And last thing, I'm gonna shut the hell up, is that I believe that people fall in love with ideas, and they fall in love with ideas to the point to where they're not actually recognizing that this person's body language is showing me something else. They're showing me something else, but yet I'm still in love with this idea of marriage. I'm still in love with this idea of having a wife or having a husband. And it's like, especially when you're like so close to it, you're willing to actually do what needs, well, I guess, accept a lot of things just so you can get to that point. But the thing about, you can get to that point, but let's also be very clear. What state of being would you be in once you get to that point, or once you have a divorce and get out of it? So, but I also believe in this is my last thing. I also believe our way out of that and being able to escape a lot of those issues is when you actually accept and have self-love, a true version of self-love. Because when you actually have that version of self-love, a lot of stuff you don't tolerate. And I can tell you guys from experience, because I remember when I was like low and feeling like I needed a relationship all the time, I was willing to do anything to have it. But now since I have more self-love, a lot of shit I don't deal with. So that's all I had to say.
No, I appreciate it. Again, everybody, I appreciate everybody that came up, because all of y'all were dropping some true gems. I like the way the conversation kind of evolved, because there's like the racial component, there's a gender component, there's a power dynamic component. There's a lot in this question that leads to a lot of other questions. And I believe, like what Reckless talked about, what Mandrill talked about, what a lot of people, Wally, Bree, what all of us are honestly getting to the bottom of, is understanding ourselves in some facet. I say the word psychology, like Reckless was talking about self-love, but he talked about falling in love with the ideas of things. The understanding that you're susceptible to influence and societal pressure and conditioning, that's psychology. And that will actually impact how you love yourself, how you see yourself, how you identify. Even things, even ideas that would harm you, you might take in and internalize because your psychology, you got conditioned into it. So I think we need a greater understanding of self. But like Reckless said, if you have the self-understanding, if you have the self-love, then you can then understand others and then love others. So tapping into our own humanity allows us to see the humanity in other people. So I really appreciate that. All the points y'all brought up, man. All of y'all were amazing panelists. I appreciate all of you. I am going to play the outro in a second. Preset gems. Yella said, yeah. Not internet self-love. Kennedy said, know thyself. Yeah, gotta know yourself. How could you learn to know anybody else if you haven't explored the person that's right there with you 24/7? How could you learn to investigate another person if you haven't investigated yourself, your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own attitudes? So yeah, I really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna play this outro in a second, just turning this music off. And again, thank you, Bree, for the Ism Show. I appreciate you being here every single time. You have no idea, but I am out.
So what is this ism?
Here's the answer to your problems. Dr. Utopia's sensational new discovery, ism. Ism will cure any ailment of the body politic. It's terrific. It's tremendous. Once you swallow the contents of this bottle, you'll have the bountiful benefit of higher wages, shorter hours, and security. Enormous profits, no strikes. Remember, you're the big boss.
You know how long the ism been around?
Yeah.
The ism probably been around longer than the Illuminati. But we have different rituals. You know, it's always a ritual to a secret society that we live in. Ism is a secret society. It's a culture. It's a vernacular.
When you expand your emotional vocabulary, you expand your awareness of yourself. When you expand your emotional vocabulary, you understand how you can navigate in this bitch. This fucking weird-ass world that is so hard on y'all. Like, let's acknowledge that the world is very difficult for y'all, but y'all are not making it any easier, bruh. You're not. You might not like my fucking delivery, but motherfuckers is starting to talk, you know? Shaking the tables, I don't give a fuck.
Not a good day, okay? Now back to that one. Shaking the table.
Oh my God, she's so hot.
All right, calm down, everybody.